Hello dear viewers. How are you all doing? As I have mentioned before, I have created another new channel and I will also be uploading Harry Potter related novels on it at start, as this channel is for all the worlds and topics. So please check out and support my second channel too, as you have been supporting me here. Channel link is in the description and pinned comment. Thank you for all the support. What do you mean? I don't get the werewolf Fenrir Greyberg. The guy who turned Lupin into a werewolf. A pink-haired woman slapped the table and screamed. Perhaps feeling that her behavior was too abrupt, the woman sat back in her seat with a hateful expression. Everyone at the long table also turned their attention to her. I don't know why she is so excited. The woman has a pale peach heart-shaped face and jet-black shining eyes. Her name is Nymphadora Tonks, a member of the Order of the Phoenix and an excellent auror. And she has an extremely rare talent. That is, Nymphadora Tonks is actually a disguise magus. Disguise magus is a type of person who can change his appearance at will. Maybe 1 second you saw her as a 233 blonde beauty with a handsome face, and maybe the next second, she will become a green-haired middle-aged woman with a stinky face. This is a very strange ability. However, this talent can be innate, or it can be acquired through practice to become an imagus. After all, this ability is convenient for concealment and camouflage. And Nymphadora Tonks is a natural disguise magus. Oh, please Nymphadora, don't you always be surprised? Molly Weasley complained, spreading her hands. Her husband managed to escape from death. Currently recovering from an injury at home, being called here in place of Arthur Weasley in the middle of the night is a bit of a bad mood. Nymphadora Tonks smiled brightly and stopped talking. She knew that her reaction just now might have been a little too excited, and it would have made people feel strange. As predicted, Remus John Lupin gave her a suspicious look. Not only him. Sirius Black even looked at Nymphadora Tonks with an unidentified expression in his eyes. These two, kind of interesting. Snape hasn't come yet, this guy, why he always likes to be late for every meeting. Mad Eye Moody's bright blue magic. I glanced around. Sure enough, Severus Snape wasn't here. There is no problem with him. When did he arrive in time? If I say we shouldn't wait for him. Sirius Black said, dissatisfied. For Severus Snape. Sirius Black had no less complaints, just because Albus Dumbledore couldn't express it. Okay, since Severus doesn't come, don't wait for him, let's have a meeting first, be quiet. Albus Dumbledore patted the table to signal everyone to be quiet. The crowd quarreled. But as long as Albus Dumbledore speaks, everyone will be very obedient. I think some people sitting here should already know that Lyn Sha, the son of prophecy who taught a whole new language by Trelawney. 35. After speaking, Albus Dumbledore swept around. Seeing that no one showed a puzzled expression, he continued. Soon. When Albus Dumbledore told everything about Lyn Sha facing the Death Eaters twice, there was silence in the huge room. Some members who heard it for the first time were stunned. Looking at Albus Dumbledore in disbelief. They were all wondering if what Albus Dumbledore said was actually what happened. After all, this is too appalling. A 16-year-old boy faced the Death Eaters twice, but not to mention annihilating the Death Eaters, this time he will also capture the werewolf leader Fenrir Greyberg. What an amazing result. This kid's victory alone, let alone more than most of the men present. Even if a few people are added together, there may be many Death Eaters killed by Lyn Sha. This is called the Arabian Nights. A long time. Finally a member came to his senses and asked with a slightly trembling voice, Albus, do you know what magic system he uses? Can you? His words were not complete. But all the members of the Order of the Phoenix present understood what he meant. What he meant was clear. That is, can this new magic system be taught to them, maybe let them learn this new magic system. That magic circle that blocks spells. And a portal comparable to a combination of transfiguration and portkey. And that terrifying flying spell. As long as they can learn any ability, it will be a great help for them to face Death Eaters in the future. After all, everyone knows how dire the situation is now. Even if the Ministry of Magic does not do anything, it even goes to great lengths to conceal the truth that the Dark Lord has returned, in an attempt to deceive the entire magical world. The Order of the Phoenix stands alone. Now suddenly there is such a powerful wizard, let's call it a wizard for now. The sudden appearance of a wizard with such combat power now is like a drop of nectar from the sky and charcoal in the snow for them in the Order of the Phoenix. This Order of the Phoenix member had good intentions. Cannot imagine. Before he could finish speaking, Albus Dumbledore interrupted him immediately, Daedalus. This is someone else's secret. If Lyn Sha really wants to share the brand new magic system, we will accept it. If not, no one will ask. After speaking, Albus Dumbledore glanced majestically for a week, admonishing everyone to dispel such absurd thoughts. The crowd hurriedly responded. But some people still couldn't hide their disappointment. After all, the current magic system has been born for hundreds of years, and no new magic system has been born. Most of them just innovate and improve on the basis of the original magic. This has led to the fact that the magic of the British wizarding world has stopped moving forward for a long time, just standing still. How could the sudden appearance of a new magic system not make people curious? But since Albus Dumbledore spoke, the Order of the Phoenix still respected the opinions of Lyn Sha and Albus Dumbledore. Wait until that boy really wants to make it public. They will definitely help. After all, the birth of a new magic system will definitely face endless obstacles. After all, this is a magic system that needs to be challenged. The Ministry of Magic will never give up. Albus Dumbledore nodded in satisfaction. In fact, the key point of the meeting today is to let people he can trust want to know that a new magic system has been born. For future. If the little guy Lyn Sha really wants to make it public and promote it, this group of people from the Order of the Phoenix will definitely become his strong arm. 1. 3. Albus Dumbledore had an idea from the first day he knew Lyn Sha and never disappeared. This young man. It will definitely have a new impact on the British Magic Circle and even the global Magic Circle. Really. This young man is finally beginning to emerge. The next meeting revolved around the recent movements of the Death Eaters and the Dark Lord, and incidentally re-emphasized the importance of the thing deposited at the Ministry of Magic. Let everyone pay attention. At the end of the meeting, the door of the room was suddenly pushed open. Severus Snape finally appeared. Headmaster Dumbledore, you are looking for me. Severus Snape's icy gaze swept across the people in the room, not expecting so many members to be here today. This is since the last time the Dark Lord returned. It was the first time that so many people came to a meeting. Severus Snape's arrival did not cause much reaction, and most people looked at him silently. Just like Severus Snape looked at them. Severus Snape didn't mind the other members' eyes at all, he was used to it. Not just here. He was used to it on the Dark Lord's side too. Then everyone must remember what I said, we are cooperating with that little guy Lyn Sha. Don't make a wrong idea. Oh, by the way. Blake, you and everyone are confirming the next job rotation issue. After all, Mr. Weasley needs to be filled. 99. After saying that, Albus Dumbledore got up and walked out. Mrs. Weasley wanted to go home, but she groaned when she heard Albus Dumbledore say, "Oh, for God's sake, hurry up. Yasuo is still waiting for me." 07 Albus Dumbledore and Severus Snape walked to the door. "Caught a Death Eater, the werewolf Fenrir Greyback," said Albus Dumbledore. Severus Snape was no surprise. After all, he saw the assembly signal just after he dared to go home from Malfoy Manor. He doesn't know much, you know. The Dark Lord doesn't care about the life and death of werewolves at all, and this mission is a test for them. Albus Snape looked at the bloody room with cold eyes. Not necessarily. I think he definitely knows some things that you don't know, such as what magical creatures the Dark Lord is recruiting. After all, werewolves are also members of magical creatures, and sometimes they know better than you. 99. Albus Dumbledore said. Severus Snape thought for a moment after hearing what Albus Dumbledore said. It does make sense. The Dark Lord is really recharging his strength recently, and he is constantly sending out people to recruit magical creatures from all over the world. Severus Snape knew this. Only. He is not in charge of this matter, so what he knows is also very leisurely. For example, when the Dark Lord wanted to recruit the giants from the north, Severus Snape immediately told Albus Dumbledore about it. And Albus Dumbledore was the first to send Hagrid, who has giant blood, to negotiate. Calculate the time. It's almost time for Hagrid to finish the mission. In order to prevent some people from leaking secrets, the Dark Lord will cast a more vicious spell. I don't know if Fenrir Greyback has been cursed. Severus Snape warned coldly. Albus Dumbledore chuckled twice. Let's go, of course I know, otherwise how can I get you back, you are also a master of Dementor, let's go and see. Saying so, Albus Dumbledore and Severus Snape entered the room where the werewolf Fenrir Greyback was locked. Soon. The Order of the Phoenix again heard the roar belonging to Fenrir Greyback. Traitor. Severus, you bloody traitor, it's you who leaked our actions. Bullshit. Ow. I'm going to bite you to death. You won't really find out about your traitor's behavior in the future. Don't worry, I'll be waiting for you in hell. Severus. You don't want to get any secrets from me, you should know the Dark Lord's methods, how could I leak the secrets, bah. Damn traitor. 35. I know you're a master of occlumency, but it doesn't work for me. You don't get what you want. Ah 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 ah. The wailing sound mixed with insults kept echoing, making people horrified. The members of the Order of the Phoenix had no idea what was going on inside, or what exactly Albus Dumbledore and Severus Snape were doing. But no one took pity on Fenrir Greybaug. In the room, Fenrir Greybaug was dying, lying on the floor breathing hard. It's as if you're going to stop breathing at any time. Severus Snape checked his body and shook his head. No, there is a magic spell blocking it. If you continue to dig in, this guy will die. Albus Dumbledore frowned. Sure enough, Voldemort is guarding this. The two of them had expected this result, but they still felt a little regretful. After all, this guy probably knows something. It's just a pity that there is no useful information from his mouth. The Dark Lord didn't get angry when the mission failed, he seemed to be preparing for something, Severus Snape said suddenly. And this matter may be related to the prophecy of the crystal ball. Albus Dumbledore sighed, I must teach Harry occlumency next semester. I have a bad feeling. I also have a new discovery. If everything goes well, it may end. Snape's eyelids jumped at Dumbledore's words. What does 233 mean? Could it be that Headmaster Dumbledore has discovered an important secret of the Dark Lord? Hearing Headmaster Dumbledore's uncertain words, Snape didn't ask too much. Because he knew he couldn't know too much. He had to see the Dark Lord from time to time, and the more he knew, the easier it would be to expose himself and do things to Albus Dumbledore. The Order of the Phoenix was not prepared to send Fenrir Greybaug to the Ministry of Magic. Joke. Are you going to add a merit to the Ministry of Magic's merit wall? The Order of the Phoenix is having a meeting at 12, Grimmauld Place, and the Death Eaters at Malfoy Manor are discussing matters. Same. Lyn Sha at 35, Carnaby Street is also preparing to check the next mission reward. After all, this is a stacking task. Lyn Sha thought for a while. If nothing else, he might not be able to meet the Death Eaters until he returns to Hogwarts. This also means the reward task given by the Supreme Mage system should almost be settled. Lyn Sha entered the Supreme Mage system and started the browser task reward. The majesty of the Supreme Master is about to be challenged, and no one is allowed to challenge the Supreme Master. Reward task, in order to prevent the host from being lazy during the holiday, please kill as many food or death apostles as possible. Reward, at present, there are a total of 12 people who have killed or captured Death Eaters, and will be rewarded with the sacred sword of Taj Magic Vishanti. Vishanti's holy sword. Lyn Sha was taken aback. I didn't expect the rewards to be so rich, and it has grown into Vishanti's sacred sword. This time, the Supreme Mage system, reward quest is different from the past. It is not the usual fixed reward, as long as the task is successfully completed, the reward can be successfully received. This mission can stack the number of mission objectives. Different levels of rewards are awarded based on the number of Death Eaters captured or killed. This also means that as long as Lyn Sha keeps looking for Death Eaters to complete the task, the reward limit of the task will increase infinitely. If Lyn Sha wants to be greedy, it is very possible to save up to the Mirror Dimension, Bossat's Thunder and other quest rewards. But an opportunity like this to kill Death Eaters in large numbers will never come up in the near future. After all, Voldemort was no fool. Having damaged so many Death Eaters in his own hands twice in a row, he will definitely not rashly attack himself again. Next time. It is absolutely impossible to be a group of rabble. Although all werewolf wizards were killed this time, they were filthy scavengers that Voldemort despised, but for the current Voldemort, it still hurts a bit. Werewolves are magical creatures. For Voldemort, who hasn't recruited too many magical creatures so far. Just like chicken ribs. It is tasteless to eat, and it is a pity to abandon it. Lyn Sha thought for a moment, and decided to complete the task to receive the reward. When Lyn Sha said that he had received the quest reward, the reward quest in the Supreme Mage system disappeared, and the use of Vishanti's holy sword suddenly appeared in his mind. In this way, Lyn Sha can be considered to have used his own melee weapon. No more fighting with the Ring of Ragador in both hands. Christmas break is not very long. Lyn Sha spends most of his time studying Taj magic at home, completely disconnected from the wizarding world. Occasionally Luna and Hermione would write to themselves. Tell the current situation. The Order of the Phoenix and the Death Eaters also seemed to have reached a strange balance, and nothing major happened. As if they were planning something. And since Lyn Zhao's home address is only known to a few people, he is also likely to be harassed by Death Eaters. Maybe say so. The Death Eaters haven't bothered him lately either. After all, the 2 consecutive losses made the Death Eaters pay more attention to Lyn Sha, and he was considered a change of direction and did not dare to act rashly. If Lyn Shao's guess is no problem. Maybe this semester will be more interesting, and there will be people who will find ways to understand their own information. And during the holidays, Lyn Shao's understanding of the Kamar-Taj magic that he currently possesses has become deeper and deeper, and he has vaguely found a way to teach others. Teaching others to learn Kamar-Taj magic is different from Lyn Sha getting Kamar-Taj magic by himself. The former has a bit more difficulty. After all, his Kamar-Taj magic is a direct reward from the Supreme Mage system, which allows him to directly possess the ability to use Kamar-Taj magic without learning and understanding. To teach others to use Kamar-Taj magic requires a lot of knowledge. Such as the source of magic. The basis of magic. Knowledge of magic. Steps to pay attention to when using Kamar-Taj magic and how to use it. It can be said that this is a very complicated process. Lyn Sha has an ambition in his heart. Since his goal is to become the Supreme Mage, the followers or apprentices must master some Kamar-Taj magic abilities. Otherwise, what is the difference with the Bear Commander? Although Hermione and Luna are very intelligent wizards, whether they can learn Kamar-Taj magic is mainly up to his master. With this idea, Lyn Shao's holiday ended in a flash while he was pondering the magic of Kamar-Taj day and night. When Lyn Sha came to platform 9 3/4 again, he was unexpectedly happy when he saw the red Hogwarts train. Don't know when to start. Lyn Sha has fallen in love with life here, and has integrated into it very well. Hey, Lyn Sha, Lyn Sha. Minus. Lyn Sha looked back. Ronald Weasley and Harry Potter were running towards him. Hermione pushed her luggage behind her. It's not funny, I didn't have a letter during the holidays, are we talking about girlfriends? Ronald Weasley bumped against Lyn Shao's shoulder with a reunion smile on his face. Harry Potter also said hello and looked at Lyn Sha happily. Lyn Sha was a little helpless to this guy Ronald. Oh, I heard that you had a hot fight with a girl named Lavender recently, so you were talking about girlfriends. Ronald Weasley's face froze immediately, and he laughed stupidly. Lyn Sha looked behind the two of them. Seeing Hermione put on a warm smile. I don't know how to help, so I just stood and watched. Hermione said angrily to Lyn Sha, but there was a smile on her face. After chatting for a while, the four got into the car one after another. Let's go back and see if there's anyone you know. Ronald Weasley was about to blurt out in the crowded aisle, but Harry pulled him just in time to change it. Otherwise Ronald Weasley's loud voice, something could easily happen. Lyn Sha also kept Hermione behind him. Okay. Following Harry and Ronald in front, they kept pushing towards the back of the carriage. However, when the four of them approached the end of the carriage, a fierce quarrel suddenly broke out. Malfoy, don't be arrogant thinking you are a special investigation team and tell you that we are not afraid of you. That's it. It's too arrogant, it's not even Hogwarts yet. Following that old witch is awesome, but we're not vegetarian. Malfoy, don't talk nonsense with them, just grab it and hand it over to Professor Umbridge. Yes, catch them, they must have a problem. At the end of the carriage at this moment, there are two groups of people confronting each other. One of them is basically all boys in Slytherin school uniforms, headed by a blonde, handsome Draco Malfoy. At this moment, he was standing in front of a group of people and sneered. Draco Malfoy raised his hand. The students who were constantly arguing behind them immediately shut their mouths. This is enough to see. Draco Malfoy was the head of the group, and he was very dignified. I suspect that you have the possibility of a legal assembly, but the senior Umbridge prosecutor has appointed us as a special investigation team with the right to investigate suspected assemblies without consent. When Draco Malfoy finished speaking, Goyle and Crabbe giggled immediately. Several other students also said that it was like that. The response of the doglegs behind him made Draco Malfoy proudly raise his neck and look at the opposite side full of drama. Humph. Fight with me, Master Malfoy, you're too young. I am a noble pureblood family outside, and I am the prefect and the leader of the special investigation team at school. What are you fighting me for? 233 and another group of people wore all kinds of school uniforms. Luna Lovegood of Ravenclaw, Neville of Gryffindor, Longbottom and Seamus Finnegan, also Ernie Macmillan of Hufflepuff and others. It can be said. Except for the students of Slytherin College. Opposite Draco Malfoy were many students from the other three academies. Be aware that this is a rare case. Do not. It should be said to be rare. Most of the time when sitting on the Hogwarts train, almost all the boxes are selected according to the college. For example, this box is filled with Gryffindor students, and the other box is probably filled with Hufflepuff students. There are hardly any Academy students. Mixed together regardless of age. Unless it is said that this group of people has some common small group, or some common society. That is why. It was only then that Draco Malfoy suspected that there must be something shady about the fellows who gathered together in different ages and in different academies. Luna stood at the front of the crowd. Like a big parent. He took out his wand and stood upright in front of Draco Malfoy and the others. Hee hee, crazy girls are so brave. Why, you still want to do something to me? Draco Malfoy sneered disdainfully. But the hot-tempered Seamus Finnegan took care of that. Hearing Draco Malfoy calling Luna a mad girl, he immediately pushed away the crowd and stood up and scolded, "You're saying it again, little Death Eater, you dare to call Luna a mad girl, and you want to try it with us." Seamus and Draco were in the same grade. From the 1st grade to the 5th grade, for 5 years, he hated this guy. This time saw Luna being insulted. Without thinking, I just stood up. Neville also mustered the courage to step out of the crowd and took out his wand and pointed at Goyle and Crabbe, you dare come here, I'll watch out for my spell. But no one thought of it. Neville finally mustered up the courage to say what he said, which was indeed sneered by Malfoy and others. Haha, is this Longbottom crazy? What the hell? Who told me, did this Longbottom eat the dragon's heart for breakfast? Neville Longbottom, you may have forgotten how I taught you a lesson. Draco Malfoy narrowed his eyes and looked at the group of people angrily. How dare you challenge him? After all these years, has Neville Longbottom dared to provoke him? But before Draco Malfoy could speak, a very familiar voice came from behind him. Isn't this Master Malfoy? Why don't you follow Voldemort with your Death Eater father and come to school? Draco Malfoy didn't ignite his anger at the words. He turned his head sharply. Really? Harry Potter, Hermione, Granger, and Ronald Weasley. The 3 of them again. But when Draco Malfoy saw another playful figure beside the 3, his pupils shrank suddenly. Lyn Sha. It's the damn guy. If there were only those 3 mortal enemies, Draco Malfoy, they would definitely scold them back, and it could be seen that Lyn Sha was also a little cowardly in Draco Malfoy. His father, Lucius Malfoy, had warned him. Don't provoke Lyn Sha easily. The last time he passed Lyn Shao's message to his father, Draco Malfoy knew that his father's mission had failed. There are so many people there. There's no way Draco Malfoy could just let it go, otherwise it would be too embarrassing. Harry Potter. What, do you have a problem with our Special Operations Investigation team? It seems that Professor Umbridge's punishment for you hasn't made your memory long. Is the scar on your hand healed? Draco Malfoy's voice fell, and there was a burst of laughter. In particular, Goyle and Crabbe laughed extremely exaggeratedly. See. Draco Malfoy shook his head, let's go, when we get back to school, let's have a look. He is not stupid. Their Special Operations Investigation team is a joke outside of learning. Just wanted to rely on people to have more fun. But I didn't expect that it was like poking a hornet's nest, and so many people came out in a swarm. It was a miscalculation. If a conflict breaks out on the Hogwarts train, that's a private matter. Their membership in the Special Operations Investigation team doesn't help at all. The students who followed Draco Malfoy were not stupid, and they were about to leave after laughing at Draco Malfoy. Damn it. I'm going to make you look good. 35. Ronald Weasley shouted and took out his wand and was about to rush up, but Harry grabbed him. Don't make trouble, we're going to school soon. Hearing Harry's words, Ronald lowered his arms reluctantly. Draco Malfoy glanced at Harry Potter contemptuously, and muttered in his heart what a coward. But never thought. Lyn Sha, who had been silent for a while, spoke leisurely. Did you let you go? In an instant, Draco Malfoy's eyelids jumped, and he looked at Lyn Sha vigilantly. Huh? I warn you, don't mess around, we are a Special Operations Investigation team, and if you attack us, you will be punished by confinement. 35. In an instant Draco Malfoy was a little cowardly. This guy can't really do it here, can he? That's right. Lyn Sha is really going to teach Draco Malfoy a lesson here, this is too arrogant. Lyn Sha didn't give Malfoy Draco a chance to speak at all. Don't do it now. After waiting at Hogwarts, there is no chance to do it. Lyn Sha directly took out his Dovewood wand, and an extremely foul-smelling spell immediately shot Draco Malfoy. Expelling Curse. Immediately everyone present was stunned. No one thought that Lyn Sha would make such a decisive move. The first reaction is, Lyn Sha went crazy. However, what everyone did not expect was that nothing happened to the cursed Draco Malfoy. Even the hair is not messy, Root. It's like being lonely. Everyone you look at me, I see you don't know, so. Draco Malfoy patted his body quickly, and found that there was no problem at all, and was about to laugh at him with a twisted face. Sudden. Grumpy grumpy grumpy. A particularly strange sound was very loud. Immediately, Draco Malfoy's face changed suddenly, and he quickly covered his hands and hunched himself up. He suddenly wanted to go to WC. And it's still very urgent. He had to do everything he could to keep it from leaking out. Damn it. Lyn Sha. You're challenging me. Damn guy, Draco Malfoy looked extremely painful, and pulled Goair who was beside him to roar Lyn Sha angrily. His face was turning green. This damn Lyn Sha actually used such a stinky spell on him. He's going to WC, immediately. Goyle hurriedly supported Draco Malfoy and was about to turn around and go to the WC in the trunk, but the worst thing was that the back was blocked by the members of the D.A. club. No matter how Draco Malfoy rants about D.A., it's a playful look. Life and death do not move. Lyn Sha, you're too funny. Hermione Granger stabbed Lyn Sha lightly. Lyn Sha lowered his head and blinked. This is still bad taste. Didn't you teach me this curse? Then you just say that you have bad taste. Intestinal spell. This isn't actually an offensive spell, or even a bad taste spell. Although the name of the gut-digging spell is a bit perverted, its birth actually has a very sacred mission. In fact, it is to deal with constipation. It is a magic spell born in the magic hospital, in order to relieve the suffering of constipation of patients. But until one day someone used this spell to subdue the other party, it unknowingly evolved into a nasty trick-or-treating spell. At this moment, Draco Malfoy's abdominal cavity was like an overturned river. He could hardly hold on. Seeing the group of guys standing in front of them and refusing to move, they roared with red eyes, "Do it! Give me all these damned guys to subdue. Use magic spells, I'll take care of you if something goes wrong." Crazy. Draco Malfoy has gone completely crazy. He no longer cares that the people on the other side are many times more than them, nor how much riot this will cause. He knew anyway. He is now. Must. Immediately. Going to the bathroom in the trunk, whoever stops in front of him is no different from his enemy. Draco Malfoy's roar doesn't matter. The people behind him didn't react, but the D.A. members responded. If it is said that D.A. members who have not been educated by Lyn Sha before may be hesitant for a while, not knowing whether they should make a move. But now, having experienced Lyn Shao's words and deeds, the members of D.A. have a bad heart. These guys didn't give Draco Malfoy a chance at all, and they didn't even say a word of fart. Stupidity. Passed out. Expelliarmus. Accept your weapon. Slug vomiting charm. Slug spitting charm. Petrificus totalis. All petrochemical. Furnunculus. Pimple curse. Various spells took off, directly expecting Draco Malfoy and a group of people behind him. Not even a chance to get them a wand. Neat. In an instant, a row of Slytherin students lay in the aisle of the carriage. Of course, such a noisy voice also attracted the attention of many people. In many carriages, people began to look around, trying to see what was going on in the crowd. My God, it stinks. Draco can't help holding it back. Seamus suddenly covered his nose and retched. The others also quickly covered their mouths and noses. On the ground, a group of people from Slytherin fell to the ground, looking terrible. 0. Flowers. There are big pimples all over the face. There are also several spells superimposed together and the face starts to swell. There is simply a coma on the ground. Get out of the way. Get out of the way. Whoever dares to make trouble on the train, let me see which college students they are from. The sky is turning upside down, be careful I throw you all off the train. A full-bodied rebuke sounded from far to near. The members of the D.A. club looked at each other, and all of them ran away in an instant. Lyn Sha also pulled Hermione away and entered an empty box, followed by Harry and Hermione. The formation that followed was quiet. Draco Malfoy and others were taken to a place for treatment by the staff on the train. I heard that the smell stinks a whole car, and the smell is as unpleasant as the smell of a dry toilet. The members of the D.A. community are still measured. At most, stun spells and some mischievous spells will not cause much damage. It is also easier to restore. But the deans of the major colleges who received the news in advance turned green. When the Hogwarts train successfully arrived at Hogwarts, all the 4 deans of the 4 colleges were on the platform. This group of students must be incarcerated. No dean is allowed to favor them. The head of the Slytherin Academy, Severus Snape, said coldly. Professor Minerva McGonagall, head of Gryffindor House, retorted in a hoarse voice, "Oh, Severus, I heard that Mr. Draco provoked first, so they have to be locked up together, don't they?" Professor Filius Flitwick, Dean of Ravenclaw College, had a headache. "My lovely students are all spoiled by the Gryffindor kid. Oh, it's so annoying. This guy has been in trouble since he was in school." 35. Pomona Sprout, Dean of Hufflepuff College, stroked her mud-stained robe, and said impatiently, "This kind of thing doesn't happen in a college. The deans of each college can take it back for education, my God. This evening. There is a very rare plant that will bloom, let's not waste time." When the Hogwarts train arrived at Hogwarts, Lyn Sha and the members of D.A. all had their faces collapsed when they got off the train. Because they saw at a glance the dean of their own college who was standing on the platform waiting for them. Ronald Weasley felt guilty when he saw Professor Minerva McGonagall, lowered his head and pulled Harry to join the group of students. But how could Professor Miller McGonagall's height not see them? Immediately shouted. "Mr. Weasley, Mr. Potter, I saw you, please, don't hide, didn't you see the 4 deans coming?" 35. Severus Snape rushed towards Draco Malfoy and the others angrily. Seeing the embarrassed figures of Goyle, Crabbe and others, their faces were ugly. In particular, Draco Malfoy's filthy robe and pungent smell frowned. 2, 3, 3, shame on you, starting today, you'll study with me every night. Spell now, hurry in and get in. Severus Snape was full of evil fire. The students of my own college are bullied by other colleges like this, which means that the students of Slytherin are not as good as the students of other colleges. How could this make Snape give Malfoy and the others a good look? Draco Malfoy looked at Lyn Sha resentfully, his eyes filled with hatred. "Damn it, since I want to play, I will play with you." Goyle and Crabbe wanted to help Malfoy, who was somewhat collapsed, but Malfoy threw his arms away angrily. The students who had a fight on the Hogwarts train were taken back by the dean of the college one after another. Didn't even attend the welcome dinner. Lyn Sha and Hermione were of course among them. In the office of the Dean of Gryffindor College, a row of students stood by the wall. Professor Minerva McGonagall rubbed his head with a headache. "Good guy. I don't know how many, there are more than 10 people. Harry Potter, Ronald Weasley, Hermione Granger, Lyn Sha, Ginny Weasley, George Weasley, Fred Weasley, Seamus Finnegan, Neville Longbottom. Gentlemen and ladies, why do you always have to be with you whenever something happens? Children of the Weasley family, your father is still recovering, don't let him worry about it because of you. 99. Oh Merlin's beard, the school rules over there, copy it over one person and then go back to the dormitory." Professor Minerva McGonagall didn't bother to look at them either. A direct wave of the wand. A feather pen, a school rules and regulations, and a parchment fell in front of everyone. Everyone in the D.A. club looked at each other and smiled. What kind of punishment is this? It seems that Professor Minerva McGonagall's anger just now is for Professor Snape, which is not angry at all. This is true. Except that Snape was really angry. The other deans are just pretending. After all, the injured students were first and foremost Slytherin College students, and secondly, members of the Special Investigation Team. Umbridge kind of character. Even if this group of people fights outside the school, they will definitely find a way to cause some trouble for this group of students. So, when Minerva McGonagall found out about this, he immediately found the other 3 deans. Don't give the old witch a chance to punish her students. As for brawls on Hogwarts trains, that's what happened outside of school, what does it have to do with them? Moreover, they hated Umbridge and her Special Operations Investigation Team for not a day or 2. It's not a bad thing to teach them a lesson. It is not too late when everyone has finished copying the tasks assigned by Professor McGonagall. Although not in time for the dinner party. But some fish that slipped through the net brought back a lot of food from the dinner party, waiting for the return of these heroes. That's right. Is the hero. This time, in everyone's eyes, Lyn Sha and others are heroes, and they have accomplished the feat out of anger for them. There are some disgusting members of these Special Operations Investigation Teams. In addition, the 2 academies, Gryffindor and Slytherin, did not deal with them, and everyone had a lot of resentment towards Malfoy's group. When Lyn Sha and the others returned to the Gryffindor common room, it was really like attending a hero welcome party. A group of people came up directly and lifted Lyn Sha up and threw it up. "Oh, by the way, did you see Professor Hagrid at the dinner tonight?" Harry, who was eating an unknown pie, asked suddenly. Some of the students attending the dinner shook their heads. Didn't see Professor Hagrid. Strange to say, I can't and won't see Professor Hagrid this semester, said a 5th-year Gryffindor student. Didn't you say that Professor Hagrid has something to deal with? Hey, do you think Professor Hagrid is going to make some strange creatures again? I can't really tell. Oops, the Fantastic Beasts class will have to deal with some strange creatures again. That's right. The one I did last time would spit fire and blew my hair out. 99. When it comes to Hagrid, Gryffindor Academy is full of grievances. The most difficult class they found each semester was not Professor Snape's potions, or Professor McGonagall's transfiguration, but Professor Hagrid's conservation of magical creatures. Because many times, the creatures that Professor Hagrid had them take care of were horrible, and they were really learning with their lives. But then I didn't see Professor Hagrid. Many people will still miss that tall, fierce-looking but extraordinarily gentle professor. Lyn Sha thought more when he heard this. Has Hagrid not been back yet? If I remember correctly, Rubeus Hagrid was the school Harry returned to next term in 5th grade. And he brought back his giant brother. Not only that. That is, from the beginning of the next semester, some things will gradually start to happen. Lyn Sha, don't you know Professor Hagrid? When he comes back, I will take you to meet Professor Hagrid, you will definitely like him. Harry said to Lyn Sha. Ronald murmured, yes, you will one. 3 let Fong's saliva lick all over his body, and then emit a fishy saliva smell. Ronald. Don't speak ill of your teeth. Hermione turned her head and scolded Ronald. But obviously, Ronald, who bowed his head and concentrated on cooking, did not listen to Hermione's words. The following days were back on track again. Every day Lyn Sha and others are going to class, get out of class, get out of class, and attending D.A. club gatherings. Seems ordinary. But the people from the D.A. club didn't find out. A group of people in the dark have been trying to find evidence of their violations. Malfoy had planted the seeds of hatred in his heart since he made a fool of himself on the back-to-school train some time ago. By the way, he was even more certain that Lyn Zhao's group must have an unauthorized society or organization. Only now they have no evidence. As soon as evidence is found, Malfoy swore to keep the group going. After all, even if the train incident took so long. Every time Malfoy walked in Hogwarts, he felt that someone was constantly talking about him, even watching him snicker while covering his mouth. This made the always proud Malfoy unacceptable. He must take revenge. A few people have been confirmed: Gryffindor's Harry Potter, Hermione Granger, Ronald Weasley, Neville Longbottom, and Ravenclaw's Luna Lovegood. By the way, that Gryffindor kid Lyn Sha is also there. In the Slytherin common room, Goyle handed Malfoy a note with several names on it. Goyle did not forget to give Crabbe a look beside him. Probably means, look buddy, 07 has got such a secret thing in his hands. This time Master Malfoy must be complimenting us. But Goyle did not wait for the expected praise, but instead waited for Malfoy's anger. Waste. You are an idiot on the horse. I know these guys are definitely there. I also know that they must be the leader, especially Lyn Zhao's absolute core person. I didn't see that he was the first to do it that day. Is anyone else doing it? Trash. 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 Malfoy directly tore the note in his hand to shreds, and roared furiously. The sudden outburst of roar didn't just startle Goyle and Crabbe. It made the whole room quiet. At this moment, all the Slytherin students in the lounge all shut their mouths, and looked at the angry Malfoy and left the common room wisely. Have to say, within the Academy of Slytherin, Malfoy was indeed a deterrent. At least, no one dared to provoke him. Malfoy was going to blow up now. Gore, this crap for so long, has come up with a list that everyone knows. Malfoy's chest was heaving and he resisted his anger and said, let's go and find out who was taken away by the deans of various colleges that day, especially those from Ravenclaw or Hufflepuff. There are not many people in the 2 colleges, which is very good. Can ask. 55. Although Malfoy felt embarrassed that day, he paid close attention. If he remembers correctly, there should be more than a dozen people at Gryffindor Academy. Ravenclaw and Hufflepuff probably only have 4 or 5 people from each academy. He knew better than anyone about the urine nature of Gryffindor Academy students, and it was difficult to tear a hole out of them. But Ravenclaw and Hufflepuff might not. Just a bunch of nerds and junk. As long as he can find out who these guys are, Malfoy will be able to figure out what Lyn Sha and Harry are doing. Crabbe suddenly slapped his head and said in a loud voice. Master Malfoy, I see, I remember. I think about. I know the name of a Ravenclaw house student. Malfoy's eyes lit up at Crabbe's sudden words. Oh. Who? Say the name. Crabbe is good. If it's true, I'll buy you a new and latest magic broom. Malfoy is also willing to go out, as long as Crabbe says the name, he has a way. But Malfoy waited and waited, but could not wait for Crabbe's answer. Hey, what's that girl's name? Blonde hair, silver eyes, it's quite famous. Goyle also pondered hard on the side. It feels so familiar. Why does Crabbe seem to know the student's name? But the name is on the lips and can't be said. Malfoy was excited at first. But when he heard Crabbe's description of the girl, his face sank immediately. And looked at Crabbe with a cold face and said, is that girl still a 4th grader? And is a little nervous, and has a very loud nickname? Crabbe, who was worried that he couldn't think of a name, nodded excitedly, yes, it's her, but I can't remember the name. That's Mad Girl Luna. Damn guy. That's Luna Lovegood damn pig, isn't that fucking cream filling your heads? 66. Malfoy couldn't control his emotions at all. Started yelling at Crabbe. The hysterical appearance made Goyle and Crabbe afraid to speak, so they could only shut up and bow their heads to meet Draco Malfoy's anger. After a while, Malfoy slumped weakly on the sofa. He didn't even want to look at Goyle and Crabbe again. He didn't want to be stimulated in any way. Goyle and Crabbe also understood that they had angered Master Malfoy again, and stood in the back without saying a word. Go, find someone to ask. Hurry up and find me who Ravenclaw or Hufflepuff was on the train that day, right away, right away. Malfoy rubbed his forehead exhausted. He was too tired with these two idiots. Goyle and Crabbe didn't even think about it, they ran out for fear of being scolded by Malfoy again. Hee, Lyn Sha. Harry. You must not pray for me to catch the case, I know you must have an organization, and you two must still be the leaders of this organization or Club 233, I must let you two be arrested. Fired, leave Hogwarts forever. 9. Malfoy was excited at the thought of Lyn Sha and Harry being fired. He thought very simply. It was because Lyn Sha and Harry Potter were at Hogwarts that the Dark Lord couldn't help them. Just lose Hogwarts Asylum. These two are not far from death. Then the Dark Lord and the Death Eaters will tear them to shreds. But Malfoy didn't know that. On Christmas night, Lyn Sha, who was in need of Hogwarts protection, killed a total of 11 Death Eaters, and one Death Eater was still trapped in the headquarters of the Order of the Phoenix. Otherwise, even if he was given 10 courage, he probably wouldn't dare to provoke Lyn Sha. That's it. A few more days of calm passed. One day at noon Lyn Sha was enjoying lunch in the auditorium, but was pulled up by Hermione who ran in quickly. Come on, Lyn Sha, Hagrid is back, come see him with us. Rubeus Hagrid. Lyn Sha, who was pulled by Hermione, had a figure of 3.5 meters tall and an extremely burly figure in his mind. Hogwarts key-keeper, gamekeeper, also a member of the Order of the Phoenix, and a professor of fantastic creatures. Rubeus Hagrid is honest and kind, with a strong sense of justice. Lyn Sha was impressed. Rubeus Hagrid has helped everyone in important crises many times, and took care of Harry Potter in every possible way. And he has a deep connection with Voldemort, Tom Marvolo Riddle. But few people know. While Rubeus Hagrid was still studying at Hogwarts, Tom Riddle opened the Chamber of Secrets and successfully blamed Rubeus Hagrid. It is said that Aragog, the spider kept by Hagrid, killed Myrtle. In the same year, there was a ghost named Weeping Myrtle at Hogwarts. At the same time, Rubeus Hagrid was also successfully expelled from Hogwarts by Tom Riddle's false accusation. But little is known about this. Lyn Sha calculated the time. It was really time for Rubeus Hagrid to return to Hogwarts. If he remembers correctly. Rubeus Hagrid failed to complete the task given to him by Headmaster Dumbledore, and he and Madame Maxime failed to convince the giants. Instead, these giants still joined Voldemort's camp. Lyn Sha also didn't guess that Hermione and the others would take them to Hagrid, but Lyn Sha had never seen him once. Lyn Sha, don't worry. Hagrid is a very good man, I believe you will like him. By the way, let me give you a piece of advice, don't eat the food made by Hagrid, it's just a nightmare. 35. On the road Ronald Weasley tirelessly told about Hagrid. Ronald. Harry said smugly. Hagrid's food is a little bit of that, but you don't eat less. That's right, by the way, Lyn Sha is careful with his teeth, it's too sticky, every time it will make everyone drool. Hermione looked at the magic robe she just put on helplessly. I knew I was wearing the unwashed one. Every time I went to Hagrid's hut, Fanya would stick to Hermione, and she would never stop until she was drooling all over. Lyn Sha listened quietly. Did not speak. After all, he had nothing to say. I don't know what Hagrid has been doing in the past 6 months, it seems that Headmaster Dumbledore has given him a very troublesome task. Harry missed Hagrid very much. The thought of seeing Hagrid soon made him a little excited. After all, Hagrid meant a lot to him. Although he couldn't compare to Sirius Black's godfather status, he was also one of the few elders who really liked him. Soon, a group of 4 came to Hagrid's hut. When Hagrid opened the door, Harry and the others grinned happily when he saw that it was knocking on the door. Ho, dear Harry, Ronald, Hermione, I didn't expect you to be here so soon. I thought you would come back tomorrow. Hagrid was happy to see them too. The large piece of meat that was covering the wound in his hand almost fell to the ground. Come in quickly. This damn weather, it's really too cold. Saying that, he let everyone in. But when Hagrid saw the last Lyn Sha, he was stunned for a moment. But let him go into his house with him. Hagrid, let me introduce him, he is Lyn Sha, a first-year Gryffindor. Harry immediately introduced Lyn Sha to Hagrid after entering the room, but Hagrid stood up and said excitedly. You are Lyn Sha. That new son of prophecy, oh God, of course I know him. So you are Mr. Lyn Sha, it's an honor, my name is Rubius Hagrid, you can call me Hagrid. Looking at the big fan-like hand in front of him, Lyn Sha was a little stunned. My name is Lyn Sha. Oh, of course I know about you. The Order of the Phoenix because you had a special meeting, even though I wasn't there, but on Christmas night you didn't hear anything, did you? Hagrid was somewhat excited to see Lyn Sha. Although he did not attend the meeting of the Order of the Phoenix after Christmas, he learned about the content of the meeting from others. He also heard a little about Lyn Shao's Christmas feat. He had long wanted to meet this guy. Hagrid himself is a bit of a slobber. Fortunately, the response was quick, and some of the following words were not spoken. Order of the Phoenix. Christmas. The 3 of Hermione looked at Lyn Sha and Hagrid suspiciously. Co-author Lyn Sha did something they didn't know about during the holidays, and was it related to the Order of the Phoenix? Hey, Lyn Sha, you're a little embarrassed. Are you already a member of the Order of the Phoenix? How is that possible? Bill only joined after graduation. 35 Ronald said in surprise. Harry also looked at Lyn Sha in shock, with a look of disbelief. Lyn Sha joined the Order of the Phoenix. Please, I didn't even enter the Order of the Phoenix, what are you talking about? Lyn Sha explained helplessly. This Hagrid. The words are not clear. Hagrid scratched his head honestly and didn't dare to say more, for fear that he was saying the wrong thing. After all, Lyn Shao's affairs are classified information in the Order of the Phoenix. Hermione looked at Lyn Sha thoughtfully. Christmas. She knew that Lyn Sha was using the time changer for Christmas and didn't know what to do. Originally, I thought it was to attend the Christmas dinner of Luna's house and my house at the same time, so it seems that there is another secret. Facing Hermione's thoughtful gaze, Lyn Sha just smiled. By the way, Hagrid, what the hell are you doing? Why are you all wounded? Hermione asked with concern. At the same time, it also asked Harry and Ronald's doubts. Because Hagrid's face was blushing at the moment, and there was even blood stasis in some places. Know that Hagrid is a half-blood giant. The height alone is as high as 3.5 meters, which is not a body that ordinary people can fight against. Hagrid grabbed a piece of raw meat again. Stick to the bruise. You all know, well, that the Dark Lord has returned, and they have been recruiting magical creatures, especially the giants of the north, who are their main targets. 55. Hey, you know, I have giant blood. Principal Dumbledore thought I could communicate with those giants, so he sent me over. Principal Dumbledore didn't want the giants to join the Order of the Phoenix, but asked me to dissuade the giants from not joining the Death Eaters. 9. Hagrid spoke slowly of what he had done while he disappeared. Harry, Hermione, and Ronald all listened carefully. Only Lyn Sha looked confused. Isn't it? Just listen to a story, what task is released? The result, how? Harry looked at Hagrid anxiously. Giants are terrifying magical creatures. Although Harry has never seen what a giant looks like, just looking at Hagrid's half-blooded giant with a height of 3.5 meters, then the real giant must not be 7 meters tall. The thought of giants joining the Death Eaters made Harry a little nervous. Of course we found them, there were about 70 people, about 80 people. The Ministry of Magic is now watching everyone related to Dumbledore. It's really not easy to avoid their watch, isn't it? Hagrid shrugged. Then they didn't try to kill you when they found you? Ronald asked. Hagrid turned the raw meat in his hand and muttered, some of them thought so, but we did as Headmaster Dumbledore told us, and after giving the chief a present, they ignored us, and the other giants did as well. Don't think so. 5. Tell you how we did it, we bowed to them and laid the gift at their feet. What gift do you give the giant? Ronald asked 233 enthusiastically. Food? No, they can find any food on their own, Hagrid said. We give them something magical, and they like magic very much, not ordinary magic, but a twig that burns forever. Oh. Hermione was envious, but Harry and Ronald were puzzled. What is that? Eternal fire, Hermione replied. You should know, Professor Flitwick mentioned it twice in class. Yeah, that's it, Hagrid said quickly, keeping Harry and Ronald from talking back. Headmaster Dumbledore enchanted this tree to keep it forever, which is not something every wizard can do on the peninsula, so when I put the torch on the snow, the chief showed his respect and greetings to Headmaster Dumbledore. Then what did they say? Harry asked eagerly. I don't know. Hagrid shook his head. They don't speak English, the language of giants, a very old voice that I can't understand. Have you seen your mother then? Hagrid, you know it's your biological mother. Hermione asked suddenly. Hagrid bowed his head in frustration. Oh dear Hermione, you are always so understanding. She died, long ago, others told me. Sorry, Hagrid, I don't know. Hermione said sadly. Hagrid smiled at Hermione and grinned. It's okay, Hermione, I know how you feel. And then, Hagrid. Wouldn't there be any giants willing to trust Headmaster Dumbledore? Harry was eager to know the answer. Hagrid shook his head angrily. As if he was annoyed that he couldn't do what Professor Dumbledore asked for. No. I don't know. I feel that they are not friendly to us, although they didn't attack us, but I think that the eternal fire should have played a role. That means you are willing to take refuge with the Death Eaters? Ronald asked enthusiastically. Neither. Hagrid said. Although there is no sign of the Death Eaters coming, I still think the Death Eaters should have been in contact with them. Speaking of this, Hagrid's words have obviously increased. The Dark Lord doesn't really like magical creatures, do you understand? In the eyes of pureblood wizards, these are low-level creatures, but now it's the situation. The Dark Lord had no choice. In those dark times, there were also many magical creatures following the Dark Lord. At that time he looked down on it completely, but now there is no way to do it, and we must use these magical creatures. 35. Harry, Abd, and Ronald looked at each other, confused, not knowing what Hagrid was talking about. Hagrid, are you saying that the giants are hesitating? Hermione heard Hagrid's voice. Yes, I think so. Hagrid nodded heavily. The last time the Dark Lord swept the giants of the magical world, he contributed a lot. In fact, magical creatures like the Dark Lord very much, because wizards do not like magical creatures, they think that they may have a better life with the Dark Lord, so last time a lot of magic creatures do their best. It's a pity Voldemort failed, right? Harry said tactfully. That's right, because of the failure of the Dark Lord, those magical creatures lost their trust in the Dark Lord, and even now life is not as good as it used to be. That's why Headmaster Dumbledore asked us to persuade the giants, just to seize this idea. Now everyone understands. When the Dark Lord slaughtered the magic world last time, many magical creature races did their best and said they played a very important role. But they didn't expect the Dark Lord to die suddenly. This makes life more difficult for magical creatures at present. So, there is some uncertainty about the Dark Lords once again recruiting this group of magical creatures. They didn't know if they should follow the Dark Lord again. After all, the last failed experience brought an extremely painful price to these magical creatures who already lived in the dark. If it fails again this time, magical creatures can't afford that. But I've heard that the Dementors are already leaning towards the Dark Lord, and if the giants are falling for the Dark Lord, that's going to make things worse for us, Hagrid said angrily. Dementors? What about Azkaban? Harry was extremely surprised. You must know that Dementors are creatures that guard Azkaban. Harry. Headmaster Dumbledore suspects that the Ministry of Magic has been infiltrated, and Azkaban may soon be releasing a large number of former prisoners. Hagrid's tone was heavy. In an instant, the four people in the room fell silent. Hermione and others did not expect the situation to be so dire, the Dark Lord was moving too fast. At this time, Lyn Sha spoke suddenly. Hagrid, you know where the giants are, right? Can you take me there? I have something to call them. Hagrid rubbed his face with raw meat and looked at Lyn Sha in amazement. He didn't understand what Lyn Sha meant. Harry, Ronald, and Hermione were also a little confused, obviously taken aback by what Lyn Sha just said. Lyn Sha, what are you talking about? Are you looking for a giant? They will chew you like a jelly bean. Ronald exclaimed. Harry was also stunned. Yeah, you may not know that Hagrid is a half-blood giant. You look at his situation, if there is no giant blood, it is estimated that Hagrid will not be able to come back minus. Hermione, on the other hand, was calmer. Because she knows Lyn Sha much more than Harry and Ronald. Hagrid put the raw meat on the table and made a loud noise, and looked at Lyn Sha seriously with his hands on his knees. Member of the Order of the Phoenix. Hagrid is well aware of what all Order of the Phoenix members should know. For example, Lyn Sha killed 11 Death Eaters on Christmas Day, and successfully captured the werewolf leader Fenrir Greyback. Lyn Sha, I can't tell you about this right now, I have to talk to Principal Dumbledore first. I can only tell you if he agrees. I just said that it was a long journey, not just a matter of going. Hearing Hagrid's serious words, both Harry and Ronald widened their eyes. Harry, Hagrid, isn't he serious? Ronald asked in a low voice. Harry didn't answer. But his eyes changed back and forth between Hagrid and Lyn Sha. Do not. Hagrid is serious. Just as Hagrid knew Harry well, Harry knew Hagrid well. He could see it in Hagrid's tone and attitude. Hagrid didn't take Lyn Shao's words just as a joke, but after careful consideration. Lyn Sha nodded after hearing this. Okay, then I'll wait for your news. No way. Lyn Sha just discovered the reward quest in the Supreme Mage system. In the growth of the Supreme Mage, there must be firm followers and servants. Only by ruling over powerful magical creatures can the Supreme Mage be powerful. Reward mission: recover the giants in the north and make them the first batch of servants or followers of the Supreme Master. Reward: the reward will change according to the number of submission giants. This damn mission. Lyn Sha was really dumbfounded. But thinking about a group of giant servants of 6 to 8 meters, it seems to be very cool. The height of the giants is mostly about 20 feet, that is, 6 meters 5, and the bigger ones are 25 feet, which is about 8 meters. Wanting to conquer these giants is full of difficulties. And giants are cruel, stupid, and mentally retarded. Lyn Sha didn't forget the description of the giant. When mistakes are lacking, the giants will start to kill each other, men kill men, women kill women, and old people kill old people, in order to feed themselves. To subdue this uncivilized and low-intelligence magical creature requires great power. Hagrid grabbed the piece of raw meat and put it on the bruised face again and stopped talking about the giant. After all, there were some things that Harry and Ronald couldn't know for the time being. Although they have been guarding against the return of the Dark Lord for so many years. But it wasn't the Order of the Phoenix after all. At present, they can't let them know too much about many things, such as this kid named Lyn Sha in front of him. Hagrid knew it. This Lyn Sha is highly valued by Dumbledore, and even said that it is likely to be the most important help in resisting the Dark Lord and the Order of the Phoenix this time. Again. Headmaster Dumbledore has spoken to all members of the Order of the Phoenix. If Lyn Sha needs the help of a member of the Order of the Phoenix, he must agree to his request. But Hagrid still had to wait for Dumbledore's approval to go to the giants. After all, this is no trivial matter. It's not as simple as a month or two to come and go where the giants of the north live. It takes a lot of work just to avoid the Ministry of Magic's eyeliner. Lyn Sha was not in a hurry. After all, there is no time limit for this task, as long as it can be completed. Lyn Sha, I found you a little mysterious. Are you hiding something from us? It's not enough friends. Ronald said curiously. 0. Flowers. Don't say he was curious. Harry became more and more curious about Lyn Sha. Because now it is not only about things in the school, but about the Order of the Phoenix. Ever since he knew that Professor Dumbledore had an organization called the Order of the Phoenix, he had always wanted to join it, but his godfather Sirius Black and others were strongly against it. Dumbledore also believed that Harry and Ronald were not ready to join the Order of the Phoenix. But now, seeing that Lyn Sha was getting more and more attention from Professor Dumbledore and the Order of the Phoenix, both of them were very envious, and it was inevitable that they would wonder what kind of secret Lyn Sha had. However, both of them are relatively clear-headed. Didn't keep asking. Instead, Hermione stabbed Lyn Sha without missing a trace, and lowered her voice. Your Principal Dumbledore knows? Lyn Sha nodded. He knew Hermione was talking about camouflage magic. Hermione was startled. She never thought that Lyn Sha would tell Principal Dumbledore about the camouflage magic. Tell you back. Lyn Sha interrupted Hermione with a simple sentence. Yet at this moment, suddenly Fangya suddenly started to scream, as if a stranger was approaching here. The 5 of them looked at the window by the door together, and there was a short figure outside the window. Oh, damn it. What an old witch. Hermione said in disgust. A look of disgust flashed across Ronald and Harry's faces. Harry quickly took out his invisibility cloak and greeted Lyn Sha and the others to get in. Hagrid. Hide our cups. Hermione ordered. Hagrid was also hurriedly shoved several people's cups under Fanya's cushion. Fanya kept bouncing back and forth in front of the front door. Hagrid squeezed it aside with his feet. When he looked back, he could not see Lyn Sha and others, so he opened the door. Lyn Sha hid under the invisibility cloak and looked at the magic item curiously. Really. Looking from the inside out, it is like a very pure plastic film, and there is no other feeling other than eating. It is indeed one of the Deathly Hallows. The four of them did not dare to come out under the invisibility cloak, for fear of being discovered by others. Umbridge was standing at the door now. She was wearing a green tweed cape with earmuffs. In order to see Hagrid in front of her, she took a few steps back. After all, she couldn't even see Hagrid's waist, so it was difficult to see his face when standing in front of Hagrid. Then, she said loudly, word by word, as if speaking to a deaf person, "Are you Hagrid?" Didn't wait for Hagrid to answer. Umbridge, 233, walked straight into the room and looked around. Yaya, this old licking dog, is also cold and unpretentious, and wants to go and get close to Umbridge. But was yelled at by Umbridge. "Who are you?" Hagrid said, looking at her. "My name is Dolores Umbridge." Umbridge's sharp eyes looked around the room, as if he had found something. Hagrid was a little stunned. "Aren't you the one who worked at the Ministry with Ambush?" "Yes, I'm the Deputy Minister of Magic, and now I'm a Defense Against the Dark Arts Professor at Hogwarts and a Senior Investigator at Hogwarts." Umbridge paced the hut arrogantly, and put the eyes fell on the duffel bag and cloak by the wall. "You're brave, then." Hagrid shrugged. Nobody at Hogwarts really likes the job except Snape. Umbridge didn't care about Hagrid's attitude at all, and suddenly turned to look at Hagrid and asked, "Who were you talking to just now? I heard voices." "Tooth," Hagrid said. "Yeah. Are you talking to it?" "Yes, I have to find someone to talk to, right? Yaya is a good confidant." Speaking of this, Hagrid was obviously a little uncomfortable. Obviously. Lying is indeed a difficult thing for Hagrid. "I see 4 pairs of footprints on your door." Umbridge asked suddenly. "Maybe someone came to find me, but unfortunately, it should be that I am not leaving, and there are still relatively few people in my place." Hagrid tried to make his tone seem relaxed and natural. But in the face of Umbridge's aggressive questioning, Hagrid has begun to lose patience. "I heard that you took a break for a long time. Where did you go?" "I heard that there is a teacher from another college with you." "I asked many professors, and they don't know what you went to place. Just say you leave a message and leave." 99. Umbridge continued in her peculiarly sweet voice, "Can you tell me where I've been, if it's convenient?" "Being Fudge's eyeliner at Hogwarts." Of course Umbridge knew about the long disappearance of gamekeeper Hagrid and the headmaster of Beauxbaton's School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, Lady Maxime. And the Ministry of Magic sent someone to follow. It's just unfortunate. The two apparently had a premeditated plan, and after a few rounds, the Ministry of Magic was lost. According to Minister Fudge. They must have been instructed by Headmaster Dumbledore to do something. But the point is that there is no evidence. That's why when Umbridge heard about Hagrid's return to school, he ran there as soon as possible. Even if you don't know what Hagrid went out to do. But at least one thing needs to be inquired. But, as seen by Lyn Sha and others, Hagrid's answer to the leak did not leave any handle to Umbridge at all. In a new environment, go on vacation. Knowing that I haven't rested at Hogwarts for so many years, it's time to get out and have a good time. Hagrid said while sticking raw meat to his face. And what about your wounds? Except for accidents. Umbridge continued aggressively. At this time, even Lyn Sha, who was not familiar with Hagrid, could see that Hagrid's eyes were full of anger, and his aggressive attitude towards Umbridge was very full. "Should I report it to you if I fell?" "Madam Senior Investigator." Hagrid glared at Umbridge with a flushed face. "You don't say it." Hagrid's figure is matched with a rough face, and when he gets angry, he will really put a lot of pressure on others. Umbridge's face froze with fright. There are even 2 steps behind the feet. But the retreat didn't matter, and Hermione, who was hiding in the invisibility cloak, almost screamed. Fortunately, Lyn Sha is quick-witted. He covered Hermione's mouth with one hand and held her tightly in his arms. The space inside the invisibility cloak is not very large. Usually Hermione, Harry, and Ronald are actually just right. Now there is one more Lyn Sha. Instead, it made the space inside the invisibility cloak extremely narrow. Even Lyn Sha had to hug Hermione tightly. Originally, Hermione was a little shy when she was hugged by Lyn Sha. This hug almost made Hermione slump in Lyn Shao's arms. Lyn Sha felt that Hermione's body was extremely hot in his arms, and he exhaled a hot breath and hit his palm. Afraid of Hermione making a random noise, Lyn Sha wrote quiet on Hermione's abdomen with his hand. This is bad. Originally, Hermione was so embarrassed that she couldn't stand still. Harry and Ronald were so nervous that they couldn't breathe, and wanted to step back to avoid Umbridge, but they were afraid that she would find them tense. He didn't know the situation of Hermione and Lyn Sha next to him. Especially Ronald. Nervous big drops of sweat covered his forehead, and he opened his mouth and looked terrified. It would be bad if Umbridge found out. Harry was equally nervous. Sweat beaded on his hands. Hermione glanced 1-3 times at Harry and Ronald with the only reason she could, and was relieved when she realized that they hadn't noticed that she and Lyn Sha and the other were different. Hermione's head was dizzy now. Can't think anymore. On the other hand, Lyn Sha didn't know what to say. This is the case, just enjoy it. Hopefully Hermione won't slap herself when she lifts the invisibility cloak. I hope this girl calms down a bit. These are all things that are too small for the invisibility cloak, and have nothing to do with him. He was also forced to be helpless. After Umbridge stood firm, he felt annoyed at what he had just been afraid of. Take a deep breath. Facing Hagrid, who asked 3 questions, Umbridge lost his patience. She understood. This is another Dumbledore guy through and through, who can't ask anything and is a waste of time. I'll report to the minister that you didn't return to the academy in time, 35 Umbridge said as he opened the bag dangling from her arm. Okay. Hagrid nodded nonchalantly. You should be able to tell other professors what rights I have as the senior prosecutor here. I think we will meet again soon. She said suddenly when she walked to the door. Hagrid repeated, Are you the senior prosecutor at Hogwarts? Oh, that's right, dear. Umbridge said softly, and by the way put his hand on the doorknob and looked back at him. Magic 07 The Ministry of Justice decided to prescribe some unqualified teachers. I wish you a good night, Hagrid. After speaking, Umbridge walked out of the door and slammed the door shut with a bang. Hagrid looked towards the door with a gloomy expression on his face. Have to say. Even Hagrid, who was very gentle, was really disgusted by this old witch this time. Where's the old witch? What a bloody bastard. Hagrid muttered to express his dissatisfaction. Harry saw Umbridge leave the room and was about to take off the invisibility cloak when Lyn Sha grabbed his hand and stopped him. Not now, he said to Harry and Ronald beside him, she probably hasn't gone yet. Not right now. Lyn Sha glanced at Hermione in his arms from the corner of his eyes, her ears were red and she was about to drop out of school. It is estimated that this girl's head is still confused. Now if the invisibility cloak is lifted, it is really unclear. Harry and Ronald probably thought they had done something to Hermione. Lyn Sha nodded implicitly to Hermione. Let her wake up. Really? With Lyn Shao's reminder, Hermione gradually regained her senses, and when she looked around, she realized that the old witch from Umbridge had left. Hagrid apparently thought so too. First, he sat on the chair for a while, pretending to be okay, and then got up. He walked over to open the door and looked around. She's back at the castle, he whispered. So she's the one sent by the Ministry of Magic? Oh, what a nuisance. Yeah. Harry flipped off the invisibility cloak and replied, she even gave out Professor Trelawney. If it wasn't for Headmaster Dumbledore, she might have been kicked out of the school by this damned old witch. Professor Trelawney? Hagrid exclaimed. Hagrid respected every professor at Hogwarts, even the neurotic Professor Trelawney. When he heard that Umbridge almost kicked Professor Trelawney out of Hogwarts, he was instantly furious. Damn old witch. Sooner or later she will be punished. 5. By the way, Hagrid, you're back. What have we prepared for the Conservation of Magical Creatures class? Ronald asked sitting next to Harry. Yes, but I can't tell you, Hagrid said mysteriously. I have a surprise for you. Surprise? Harry exclaimed. But don't, that old witch of Umbridge just wants you to make a mistake so she can fire you. Wrong. You're talking about danger, right? Hagrid said happily. Haha, no, no. Believe me, this must be a very novel experience for you, and it will even be shocking. Harry and Ronald looked at each other. They both saw worry in each other's eyes. Hagrid's surprise, a lot of times for their students to come to a book as a shock. Do not know either. This time Hagrid prepared something strange. Perhaps because Hagrid hadn't come back for a long time, Harry and Ronald pulled him to talk a lot. But no one noticed. Hermione, who has always liked to give advice, didn't say a word this time. She sat with a blushing face and was executed in the dark, pinching her clothes and not daring to look up. And Lyn Sha sat next to Hermione and looked at her funny. Not long after. Okay, it's too late, it's time for you to go back. Hagrid got up and said, I don't want you to go back to the lounge too late because I'm back. Ronald and Hermione are both prefects after all. Congratulations to both of you. Ronald raised his chest proudly when he heard the words of the prefect, while Hermione hummed like a mosquito. When Lyn Sha and others left Hagrid's hut, Hagrid held Lyn Sha alone. Lyn Sha, I'll tell Dumbledore, but I suggest that you'd better get rid of this idea. Although Principal Dumbledore asked us to cooperate with you from the Order of the Phoenix, I don't recommend you go to the Giant. Hagrid kept his voice low and sincere in order not to let Harry and the others hear him. Giants are more terrifying and cruel than you think. If it wasn't for me having a giant bloodline, maybe I might not be able to come back this time. Speaking of the trip, Hagrid was clearly terrified. However, I'll speak to Headmaster Dumbledore, and I just hope you'll think about it. Hagrid didn't treat Lyn Sha as Harry's normal child. Instead, treat it like an adult. So there were only suggestions and kind reminders in his tone, which made 233 Lyn Shao's affection for him full. Hagrid, I know your worries, but don't worry, I'm ready, you just have to tell me where the giants are. Seeing that Lyn Sha was still stunned, Hagrid reluctantly promised to contact Headmaster Dumbledore as soon as possible. On the way back to the castle, Ronald suddenly looked at Hermione. Hey, Hermione, what's wrong with you today? You've been weird since Umbridge came. Hermione looked a little flustered, but she still pretended to be calm. Is there? 39. Have. Harry and Ronald answered in unison. Lyn Sha suddenly laughed out loud for no reason. Until the furious Hermione pretended to fight and chased Lyn Sha all the way back to the castle. Hey, Harry, do they have something to do with each other? Ronald asked, watching the two of them fighting. Harry smiled and said, isn't it a bit? You and Lavender aren't a bit too. Ronald blushed immediately. Harry was also afraid of being beaten by Ronald, so he hurriedly ran away. When Lyn Sha saw Hagrid again, it was in the principal's office. Looking at Hagrid's Dumbledore in the room, Lyn Sha understood that Hagrid should have told Dumbledore that he was going to find the giant. Oh dear Lyn Sha, I heard Hagrid said you are looking for giants, right? Dumbledore asked politely when he saw Lyn Sha. Lyn Sha said, yes, Headmaster Dumbledore, I have something to go to the giant's habitat. Dumbledore was not unhappy when he saw that Lyn Sha didn't say anything, but started talking with a laugh. Do you know about giants? Lyn Sha shook his head. Professor Dumbledore laughed and got up from his chair. Giants are amazing magical creatures, but I prefer to call them humanoids rather than magical creatures. The giants have good intelligence, but they are cruel by nature and prefer to obey the rules. Because the giants like bloody killing, they have been expelled by wizards into the mountains and forests for thousands of years, and they are almost extinct. The current giants, the tribe, should be the last giant. Having said this, Dumbledore was rather regretful, and Hagrid felt a little down. Although I don't know what you are going to do, I can tell you that the thick skin of the giant has the effect of resisting magic spells, and its combat power is also very strong. Your strange magic system may not be able to play a role. Dumbledore really didn't believe Lyn Shao's fighting ability. It was precisely because he knew part of Lyn Shao's fighting power that he thought that it would not be an easy matter for Lyn Sha to meet a giant. The most notable feature of the giant is the resistance to beating. Lyn Shao's magic, which is close to close combat, may be a nightmare to encounter such a rough-skinned guy. Hagrid also said, yes, I know the fighting power of giants very well. If an outsider enters their territory, it will tear you apart. Dumbledore was no longer speaking. Just watching Lyn Sha confidently. To be frank. If Lyn Sha really had some idea about giants, it would be better for Dumbledore himself and the Order of the Phoenix. After all, he is not sure about winning the giant's position. Dumbledore didn't think the giants would fall to the Order of the Phoenix or remain neutral from participating in the wizarding upheaval. There is a high probability that it will fall to Voldemort. After all, according to the habits and characters of giants, Voldemort's philosophy is more suitable for them. Only with Voldemort they could get out of the forest again. Lyn Sha said confidently, I understand Principal Dumbledore's concern and Professor Hagrid's concern, it's just a giant, I only have a solution. Just a giant? Dumbledore and Hagrid looked at each other in shock. But when Dumbledore thought of Lyn Shao's defiant tactics, some of the words he wanted to say were suppressed by him. Then when are you going to leave? If you are going to the giant forest, it will be a very hard journey, Dumbledore said. Hagrid grimaced. I just came back, are you going out again? He doesn't have to think about it. Only he knew where the giants were hiding, only he had been to the giant forest, and only he had half the blood of giants. So he is the best guide. But a bitter face is a bitter face, as long as Headmaster Dumbledore asks him, he will definitely be obliged. Ah. Lyn Sha obviously didn't react. Hagrid sighed, exhaustion written all over his face. First we have to find a way to avoid the Ministry of Magic's detection, we have to travel through many cities, and finally we go to a large forest. Not only that, but also to cross a very dangerous the primeval forest. Alas, all in all you have to be mentally prepared. Dumbledore smiled and said nothing. Because he also knew where the giants were, it was a very hard journey indeed. Lyn Sha was speechless for a while. All in all, do these people think that they will go through the same hardships as Hagrid to the giants' land? Take several months. How is that possible? If it really took several months, Lyn Sha simply chose to give up the task and didn't want the reward. What a joke. That. Professor Hagrid, you just need to tell me where the giant's territory is located, it doesn't take a few months. Lyn Sha said suddenly. Hagrid and Dumbledore were taken aback. Dumbledore frowned, his eyes widened sharply as if thinking of something, and he looked at Lyn Sha in shock. You mean, that magic is right? Lyn Sha nodded. Dumbledore suddenly walked up to Lyn Sha and said excitedly, can you use it for me to see? Oh, Merlin's beard, I heard Moody and Sirius say that you have a very magical magic in front of you, similar to the door key. No, it's the portal. Seeing Dumbledore's childlike curiosity, Hagrid was a little stunned. What's the meaning? How could he not understand? Although Hagrid didn't hear Lyn Shao's words, Dumbledore instantly got what Lyn Sha meant. He had heard it. On Christmas Eve, Lyn Sha relied on a kind of magic similar to teleportation, and directly brought the three Moody, who were at the headquarters of the Order of the Phoenix, to Mr. Lovegood's residence. That's the headquarters of the Order of the Phoenix. Let's not talk about how far it has crossed, but the protective magic contained in the headquarters of the Order of the Phoenix is not something that ordinary people can find. But he just told Lyn Sha the address, and he could build the Gate of Inheritance in the headquarters of the Order of the Phoenix. This is enough to see the power of that portal. The root is not something that can be compared to apparition, port key, furnace powder, and the like. Lyn Sha nodded, yes, that's right, that magic is called the Gate of Suspended Rings. Going to the giant's territory is just a blink of an eye. Although Lyn Sha said it casually. But Hagrid rounded his eyes and looked at the boy in disbelief. What? In the blink of an eye? Fine, how is this possible? Lyn Sha, really? I just need to tell you where the giant's territory is, and you can get there in a blink of an eye. Hagrid repeated Lyn Shao's words, apparently in disbelief. Dumbledore also looked at Lyn Sha expectantly from the side. The meaning is obvious. Do it. Lyn Sha smiled, these two people looked so cute that they had never seen the world before. He doesn't explain anymore. He took out the ring from his pocket, put it on his hand, and put it on his chest. The other hand began to draw circles in the void. Accompanied by Lyn Shao's movements of drawing circles. Dumbledore and Hagrid were dumbfounded. Nagging. This is my cottage? Yeah. Hagrid looked at the golden red circle in shock. Because the circle seemed to have opened up time and space, and the opposite turned out to be his dilapidated hut. And Fanya was barking at their grinning dog. Oh, you bloody coward. Jump over. Maybe saw Hagrid. Fong, who was baring his teeth at the door of the ring, suddenly wagged his tail and went straight through the door of the ring to Hagrid's side, bumping into a lot of utensils along the way. Oh, Hagrid, that's what I collected with great difficulty. 9. Dumbledore felt a little distressed about the utensils that had fallen to the ground. But his eyes were staring at the door of the ring. This is what Moody said about the portal, and sure enough, it can really ignore space, ignore location, and teleport anything. Merlin's beard, this is amazing, this magic system is simply too beautiful. The first time Dumbledore saw the gate of the ring, his expression was intoxicated. If it wasn't for the fear of touching those golden red rays at will, he might have wanted to touch 233 carefully with his hands. Dumbledore crossed the ring gate excitedly. That's right, this is Hagrid's house, it's amazing, Mr. Lyn Shao's magic is simply amazing. 99. Dumbledore was like a kid with a new toy. Constantly crossing the gate of the ring back and forth, from time to time bursts of exclamation sounds. Hagrid, equally astonished, kept looking at the door of the ring. This. Can I go directly to the giant? Lyn Sha. 95. Hagrid said that he looked at Lyn Sha with full anticipation, and when he saw Lyn Sha nodded with a smile, his eyes actually had a little tear. Oh. I should have left Hogwarts later. If I had known you earlier, maybe I wouldn't have had to suffer so much along the way, and I might have come back already. Hagrid suddenly felt sad, thinking of the suffering he suffered some time ago. He felt inexplicably distressed. Dumbledore coughed awkwardly at this time. This Hagrid. However, Dumbledore also understood that the journey must be difficult for Hagrid and Lady Maxime. Otherwise it wouldn't take so long to get back to Hogwarts. After putting away the door of the ring, Lyn Sha looked at Dumbledore. Is it all right now? Principal Dumbledore, this can guarantee that I will return very, quickly, just tell me the location. 55. Dumbledore nodded. If there is such a portal, of course it can. Compared to what you should have heard from Hagrid, going to the Giants is to bring some gifts. They prefer powerful magic. What are you prepared for? Although Dumbledore once again poured out strong curiosity after seeing the Gate of Suspended Rings. In the end, he was crushed. But the heart is like a cat's paw, not curious. He seemed to ask again, but after a series of struggles, he gave up the idea. At least for now. Lyn Sha was in the same camp with them on the bright side. If you ask yourself too much. Pushing this mysterious teenager to the opposite or neutral position would not be worth the loss. Ugh. Maybe when the time comes, the kid Lyn Sha should want to say something. Dumbledore could see it. Lyn Sha will one day change the pattern of today's magic world. Perhaps a brand new system will tear through the fog and rush out and stand in today's magic world. Although Dumbledore has great confidence in Lyn Sha. But there will still be some concerns. Just hope Lyn Sha isn't the next Tom Riddle. Gifts? Lyn Sha snorted coldly. Headmaster Dumbledore, I don't plan to prepare any gifts. Before Dumbledore could speak, Hagrid was a little anxious. That's not good. If the chief is not happy we will die there. Lyn Sha, please don't be impulsive. Giants are much scarier than you think. Lyn Sha went to make the giant surrender. How could it be possible to bring gifts to that ghost chief? Dumbledore stopped Hagrid from continuing, simply asking when to leave. Wait until Hagrid's injury is better, at least let Professor Hagrid rest for 2 days. Lyn Sha said mischievously. Dumbledore agreed with Hagrid with a laugh. Hagrid grimaced at the side. But didn't say anything. No matter how reluctant he was, if Headmaster Dumbledore spoke, he would agree unconditionally. After all, that was the person he respected the most. When Lyn Sha left the principal's office, Hagrid did not leave with him, but chose to stay. Headmaster Dumbledore, do you really believe him that much? Hagrid said solemnly. Dumbledore said slowly, pacing slowly, Hagrid, don't take it for granted. This young man deserves our trust, at least for now. I heard that the Dementors are not very much at the mercy of the Ministry of Magic now. If once the Giants are on the side of the Death Eaters, the consequences will be unimaginable. 99. Recently, when you find time to find the next Centaurs in the Forbidden Forest, you say that Voldemort has returned, and the Death Eaters are growing. At the critical moment, I hope they can help Hogwarts defend against foreign enemies together. Hagrid asked in disbelief, help Hogwarts defend against foreign enemies together? That's right. Dumbledore had a look of fatigue on his face. If I'm not at school, you'll need their help. Headmaster Dumbledore, are you going far? Hagrid demanded. Dumbledore laughed twice and didn't say much, but there was a hint of determination in his eyes. Although he didn't want that day to come. But he still had to be prepared. Although he didn't admit it, he was really old. No more powerful magic like before, no more to suppress Tom Riddle. Lyn Sha. What an interesting teenager. The new child of prophecy will change the trajectory of the child of destiny. I hope this new son of prophecy can really end the darkness of the magic world and bring a new world to the British magic world with a new magic system. By the way, Hagrid, is Aragog okay? Dumbledore asked suddenly. Hagrid was silent. He didn't know how to answer this question. It's not very good, I guess it won't have much time. Hagrid was a little sad. Aragog is the 8-eyed spider that Hagrid kept. But that was only once. Aragog now has his own area of command in the Forbidden Forest, and no human beings can enter. Due to Hagrid's relationship, Aragog promises that he and his descendants will not hunt and kill humans, but as Aragog is about to grow old, this promise is gradually losing its effectiveness. Dumbledore was worried. Once Aragog dies, will the group of spiders join the Death Eaters' camp? Anyway. Everything is going in the worst direction right now. At the same time, Malfoy Manor. Respected Lord Dark Lord, the giant chief said that after everything was ready, he would set off here. The lamps in the large room were dim. A Death Eater whose face was covered by a black robe said that his voice was sharp, as if his fingernails had been slid through glass. There were countless congratulations in the room. Congratulations to the Dark Lord, the giant is still very loyal to you. Giant? Yeah, it seems that the chief is very smart. Hey, they've all been rushed to the ancient forest by those guys from the Ministry of Magic. I guess they've been praying for the return of Lord Darklord. The giants are still better than those dirty scavengers, and the werewolves. It seems that they are a bunch of waste. Voldemort cracked a smile, nodded in satisfaction, and said, looks like these giants are fairly loyal, and it should be nice to know that I'm back, well. 35. The Death Eater said again, yes, Lord Darklord, the chief is excited, and I heard that there was a half-giant called Hagrid from the Order of the Phoenix who tried to win them over. Ha, Voldemort laughed at the news. Rubius Hagrid. Did the old Dumbledore think that a half-blood giant could convince the bloodthirsty giants? The giants want blood, they want slaughter, even if the old Dumbledore gave them a powerful magical gift also to no avail. Voldemort had long guessed that Dumbledore would send someone to find the giant. But he wasn't worried. Because he knew the giant better than Dumbledore, and knew what the giant wanted to know. Once they have tasted the delicious taste of human beings, what the giants eat is tasteless. When I followed myself. These giants have all tasted the taste of human beings. How could the guys from the Order of the Phoenix give up following him just because of a magical gift and a few words of money? Ridiculous. The Dementors will be almost there soon, and the rest are those eight-eyed spiders banned by Hogwarts. The big one is not dead yet, and it is not easy to touch for the time being. The Death Eater the disciple spoke again. Voldemort waved his hand, don't worry, dear, soon everything will be all right. It's almost time for us to take over the wizarding world again, don't worry. After all these years, let's wait. Voldemort is in a great mood today. It was also the best day in the past 6 months. It's great news that the giants are still willing to rejoin him. He needs the help of the giants. After all, it can play a big role in facing wizards and attacking the Ministry of Magic or Hogwarts. As for the Dementors and the eight-eyed spiders, give them some time. If he doesn't choose to join him, he will make all these magical creatures disappear. Be a part of wizarding history. Seeing Lord Darklord so happy after a long time, the Death Eaters on the long table relaxed a lot. I have been reminded every day for so many days. Finally can relax. Bellatrix Lestrange played with her curly hair on the side, her nervous eyes jumping back and forth among the Death Eaters, and a meaningful smile hung on the corner of her mouth. Bellatrix, get ready, it won't be long before you get back that crystal ball for me. Voldemort suddenly looked at Bellatrix Lestrange and said. Bellatrix Lestrange stopped moving and looked at Voldemort reverently, dear Lord Darklord, you mean? Yes, that's right. Voldemort smiled suddenly and weirdly. I can already sense the Harry Potter rate, soon. Bellatrix Lestrange was instantly excited. Sworn assurance. Respected Lord Darklord, please rest assured, I will definitely get back that crystal ball for you. Of course I trust you the most, dear Bellatrix. You've always been great and solved a lot of my problems. Hearing the Dark Lord's praise, Bellatrix Lestrange's face became eerily red, and the whole person became completely excited. The surrounding Death Eaters also looked at Bellatrix Lestrange enviously. What are you going to do with that new son of prophecy? Bellatrix Lestrange asked suddenly. Yes. What is the new son of prophecy going to do? 2 consecutive arrests were made at Hogwarts, and many Death Eaters were also damaged if they were unsuccessful. 0. Flowers. The point is that people are still alive and kicking at Hogwarts. This was undoubtedly a very loud slap in the face to their Death Eaters. There are many Death Eaters who are holding back their encouragement. I hope Lord Darklord can give an order and let them go and capture this guy who has insulted the Death Eaters. But until now, the Dark Lord was far too slow to give orders about the new son of prophecy. Instead, he put all his energy back into the Harry Potter matter, as if turning a blind eye to the kid. Don't worry. Voldemort soothed everyone. Of course he understood what his lovable followers were worried about. Isn't that the prophecy? The new son of prophecy will change the trajectory of Son of Destiny. Since that has changed, then he needs to get the language crystal ball from the Ministry of Magic to understand all the prophecies. If it's really like that Hogwarts professor said, change has happened. Then the prophecy reserved by the crystal ball will definitely change accordingly. He had to know for sure whether the prophecy was just random nonsense by the crazy professor, or if he really predicted something about him again. That's why Voldemort suddenly stopped paying attention to Lyn Sha. Although he was curious about what magic Lyn Sha was using. But now the most important thing is still to get the crystal ball that is heavily guarded in the Ministry of Magic. But Voldemort had no idea. He doesn't care about Lyn Sha now, but that doesn't mean that Lyn Sha won't destroy his plan. Just like Lyn Sha is about to set off to the giant's territory soon, and bring all the giants who have decided to join Voldemort under his command. As for how much you can get, Lyn Sha couldn't guarantee it either. Hey, Lyn Sha, wait. Lyn Sha was about to go to the old witch's defense against the dark arts class when he heard someone call his name and looked back. It turned out to be Brother Weasley. Hey, Lyn Sha, are you going to take that old witch's class? George took Lyn Shao's shoulder and walked side by side. Fred took out a large handful of candies on the other side, pointed to one of the green wrapping candies and said, how about you, choose one. I personally recommend vomiting candy, after all, it only makes you vomit. I recommend the nosebleed nougat, you see it just keeps your nosebleed. Said here. George and Fred shouted in unison, the main thing is that it is affordable and can make you easy for the whole day. Lyn Sha smiled bitterly. George and Fred have been doing well in business lately. Because of Umbridge's bizarre personality and teaching style, their quick-action skipping class 2, 3, 3 candy sales have skyrocketed. The two of them looked at the class schedules of various grades and colleges every day. Whenever there was a defense against the dark arts class from Professor Umbridge, they would immediately appear in front of that group of students to sell their quick-cut candy. But have to deny it. In addition to the various mishaps in the early stage, the effect is surprisingly good. This also led to the explosion of sales with the spread of word of mouth. Forget it, I don't want to be covered in vomit and nosebleeds. Lyn Sha politely declined. Although he really hates defense against the dark arts classes. But I hate getting dirty magic robes even more. It's a pity, Lyn Sha, it's really hard to take out the money in your pocket. You don't like any of the products we recommend to you. George joked. Fred continued, I do know what Lyn Sha likes. Of course the Master of Gryffindor, the Little Witch of Ravenclaw. The two of them sang together and made Lyn Shao's head go crazy. These two guys. But George and Fred are indeed joy generators, and the atmosphere team is in charge. Always bring happiness to people all the time. Lyn Sha often likes to sit down and chat with these two free-thinking guys for a while. This also makes the relationship between the three very close. Did you two guys have no class? Seeing the relaxed look of the brothers, Lyn Sha asked. How could there be no class? The next class is Professor Flitwick's charms. 35 George put the quick-acting truancy candy in his pocket and said. Fred said nonchalantly, we've taken time off and continuing to study at Hogwarts may not be right for us, let me tell you a secret. 35. After speaking, Fred looked around. George and I decided to find a suitable opportunity to drop out. Drop out? Lyn Sha was stunned for a moment, it really seemed like it was time for George and Fred to drop out of school. He remembered that when Fred and George dropped out of school, it was not ordinary to submit their application for withdrawal to Hogwarts school. It was the most sensational dropout ceremony at Hogwarts in hundreds of years. But it fits the character of the two brothers. Congratulations then, you two are really not suitable for studying. 35 Lyn Sha answered. Lyn Shao's words confounded Fred and George. What? The two of them also wanted to see Lyn Shao's unexpected expression, this was not the reaction they wanted to see. Hey, do you understand that the two of us dropped out of school? We dropped out and stopped studying. Fred emphasized again, he thought Lyn Sha didn't understand what they meant. George winked at the side. The matter between them is not too big of a secret, and several people have already known it in advance. Like Harry, Hermione, and Ronald. They could not forget the surprised expressions of the three people, as if they had been greatly impacted. Dropping out of Hogwarts? Please. But as a normal little wizard, who would drop out of Hogwarts? After all, only after successfully graduating from Hogwarts can you enter the wizarding world or work in various positions in the Ministry of Magic. Drop out early. Does that mean ruining the future? How many wizards go to the Ministry of Magic just to get OWLs and NOLS qualifications through Hogwarts? But these two guys actually took the initiative to drop out. It's not just looking for trouble. Precisely because everyone thinks this way, the Weasley twins enjoy seeing the shocked look on their faces whenever someone hears that they are dropping out. All said. But no normal wizard would choose that. But they just went their separate ways. It's all about pursuing what you love and being happy. That's what the two brothers thought was right. But neither of them thought that Lyn Sha would be so calm, so that they both felt a little bit of frustration. You are so boring, Lyn Sha. Fred smiled helplessly. George said, we are going to open a store, Harry has sponsored a lot of money for us, do you want to buy a share? Start with 100 gold galleons, and make sure you don't lose money. Lyn Sha expressed no interest in buying shares. If it is said that he is fully invested, it can be considered, since Harry has already invested in advance, there is no need. Moreover, Lyn Sha doesn't have a big idea about opening a store and investing in it. He's not short of money anyway. And he will not be short of money in the future. Lyn Sha, you are really a boring guy. After being rejected by Lyn Sha again and again, Fred laughed and scolded again. George is just that. Lyn Sha was also amused by these two guys, as if he was about to take out his wand immediately. When the two of them saw Lyn Shao's action, they immediately froze. When they practiced spells and fighting in the club, the two of them made a lot of trouble with Lyn Sha. Sometimes the two brothers seemed to be fighting, but in fact they were always preparing to take revenge on Lyn Sha. But it never succeeded. All were discovered in advance by Lyn Sha and subdued. This also caused the two of them to see Lyn Sha pulling out his wand and their backs were getting chills. 3. Seeing the two of them throwing away in a panic, Lyn Sha also rarely laughed. Hey, Lyn Sha. Looking back at our performance, we've recently researched something very powerful, which will open your eyes when the time comes. Fred ran and didn't forget to turn around to do the propaganda. That's right, it will definitely make you regret not buying shares. It's useless for you to pursue and beg us. 99. These two guys. Lyn Sha shook his head, put away his wand and walked towards the Defense Against the Dark Arts professor. When Lyn Sha came to the Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom, he was a little dumbfounded. Good guy. He knew that Fred and George's quick action candy was selling well, but he didn't expect it to sell so well. There was not a single student in the huge classroom. Yes. This time there is really not a single student. This is a first-year student, all so brave. This is really Gryffindor. Crucially, it's not just Gryffindor Academy students who aren't here. Hufflepuff and Ravenclaw, and even Slytherin's first-year students, were absent. It seems that everything has been negotiated. It seemed that the first-year students of the 4 academies had a rare unity of thought on how to deal with the Defense Against the Dark Arts class taught by Umbridge. You know, if it's just the Gryffindor Student Union, it's pretty normal. After all, Gryffindor has always been known for being brave and fearless. Doing these things is not surprising. But the first-year freshmen of the other 3 colleges all asked for leave, which is a bit outrageous. And of course all this is due to the brainwashing of 07 Fred and George. The first-year students themselves are relatively easy to fool. As long as Fred and George are brainwashed, these students will buy candy and skip class like crazy. But all in all, the scenery looks very comforting. The corner of Lyn Shao's mouth twitched, it seemed that this class was a solo match between himself and Umbridge. Just find a place to sit down. Began to think. He is thinking about how he will survive in this world. It is obviously impossible for him to study at Hogwarts step by step, and neither Voldemort nor the Death Eaters will agree or not, and even the Ministry of Magic represented by Umbridge cannot let him stay in Hoggar peacefully. Was. Who let him through Professor Trelawney's prediction, has already cut a figure in the 3-way snobbery. Want peace? Basically you don't need to sit and think about it. Again. Even if these people don't come to disturb his peaceful life, the Supreme Mage system will not allow him to go on like this. The bonus quests that keep popping up in recent times have said it all. As long as your life is a little quieter. There must be something wrong. Lyn Sha also saw the common characteristics of some tasks of Supreme Mage system, through several reward tasks. That is, while constantly improving his Kamar-Taj magic ability, it seems that he wants Kamar-Taj magic to be carried forward in this Harry Potter world. That being the case, Lyn Sha decided to keep going. Perhaps breaking the inherent pattern of the magic world in this world and opening up a new order or magic system is not necessarily a bad thing. Then the first task is the current number 1 villain. Tom Riddle, Voldemort. But if you want to really carry forward Kamar-Taj magic, the number 1 enemy is Minister Fudge of the Ministry of Magic. Lyn Sha had a headache. So complicated. Oh my dear students, it's another good day, isn't it? Today we continue. Just as Lyn Sha was thinking about things, Umbridge's pretentious voice suddenly sounded. Umbridge is in a good mood today. Because I heard from Draco Malfoy, the leader of the special investigation team he set up, and found a suspected illegal association. There are many members of this society. It even includes students from several grades and 3 colleges. What makes Umbridge happiest is that the leader of this organization is probably the little guy named Harry Potter. This made her walk a lot easier on the way to class. But when she walked to the podium and raised her head while speaking, the scene in front of her blocked all her remaining words. Umbridge looks like a big toad waiting for insects to come. Open your mouth and widen your eyes. Because at this moment, there was no one in the classroom except for the student named Lyn Sha, whom she particularly hated. What's the meaning? All but this nasty guy took a leave of absence. Umbridge's face was pulled down immediately, where is the happiness and smugness just before entering the classroom? Are there any special arrangements for each college today? Umbridge looked at Lyn Sha with a cold face. Lyn Sha showed a very happy smile, and said in a yin and yang tone, as far as I know, there is none, it's a normal class schedule, 5. This made Umbridge's expression even more gloomy. The fat palm painted with pink nail polish clenched tightly, trying to maintain an embarrassing smile. Umbridge forcefully squeezed out a sentence from between his teeth, then can Mr. Lyn Sha answer me, why there are no students? Lyn Sha looked at Umbridge with a half smile. Seeing her expression of wanting to be angry but having nowhere to vent, I felt so happy. If my guess is correct, they should have all asked for leave. Don't you have a leave record on your side, Professor? You can double-check it. Here, Lyn Sha pouted at Umbridge and asked her to turn over her hands. Booklet. Umbridge hurriedly opened the booklet in his hand. Really? In the column of first-year students, there are actually rows and rows of red leave approvals. Vomit. The nosebleed can't be stopped. Unusually swollen tongue coating. Persistent high fever. Indirect coma. Stab. Umbridge accidentally scratched the page with 5 scratches. Her eyelids were beating wildly, and the blood vessels on her temples even had the urge to burst open. The eyes were instantly congested and bloodshot. This is simply an insult. The red approval to ask for leave on this page is simply the biggest personal insult to her. It would be fine if it said a full page of leave. But Lyn Shao's name didn't show asking for leave, which made Umbridge feel that this guy was just here to see his jokes. 233 Okay, very good, it seems that the system of Hogwarts students has already gone wrong. Umbridge's words were clearly suppressed. She never dreamed of it. In the past, at most, a few people would ask for leave. Unexpectedly, today it has grown to the point where only one student comes to her class in the entire first grade. And this student is also one of her most hated students. It looks like I need to add some Ministry of Magic Education ordinances. Since Lyn Sha is still here, let's start today's class. Umbridge's chest rose and fell several times, and he pretended not to care at all. Looking at Umbridge's state, Lyn Sha suddenly thought of a sentence. Don't bow your head, the crown will fall, don't cry, the bad guys will laugh. When Lyn Sha closed the door of the defense against the dark arts class, Umbridge couldn't hold back his anger and roared hysterically. Lyn Sha listened to the shrill roar, and it was as refreshing as pouring down iced cola under the scorching heat. Oh, it looks like it's time for a new Ministry of Education decree tomorrow. That's right. Lyn Sha really guessed right. After venting in an empty classroom, first thing Umbridge did when he returned to his office was to write to Minister Fudge. Hopefully Minister Fudge will be signing a Ministry of Education decree. Content is that all future leave of absence must be checked by Umbridge and the special investigation team she accepted. A new leave system was also introduced. Once number of leave requests for a course for any reason reaches more than 1/3, it will be automatically withdrawn. This time Umbridge was really angry. She never dreamed that a group of first-year students would dare to challenge Her Majesty. Especially the deans of these colleges. Blindly against her, she now desperately needs more rights. 82y: Recently, there have been relatively few club gatherings, because of the heavy learning tasks this semester. In particular, 5th graders such as Harry and Hermione were busy preparing for the Ordinary Wizarding Examination Level Test, or OWLS. This is most important thing for 5th-year students at various colleges. It was also first watershed moment for Hogwarts students. Because OWL's test scores directly affect study of Newt's courses. It was Weasley brothers who made countless teachers feel a headache, and they were very popular with Headmaster Dumbledore. Even if they have caused countless disasters, big and small, during their 6 years at school. Even in the previous Goblet of Fire, Headmaster Dumbledore just smiled when he tried to hide from the ancient magical detection of the Goblet of Fire and made himself disgraced. It was for this reason that Lyn Sha also hadn't seen Hermione for many days. Because Hermione has chosen to spend most of her time preparing for exams, she is often in a hurry between the dormitory classroom and the library. Sometimes even meeting Lyn Sha on the road just said a few words. Can be seen. Hermione takes OWL's exams very seriously. Lyn Sha also understood Hermione's strong character well, and didn't bother Hermione too much. When Lyn Sha was about to go back to the Gryffindor common room, he saw a pretty figure in front of Mrs. Fatty's portrait. Luna, why are you here? Lyn Sha said happily. Luna turned around and saw Lyn Sha, and walked down the stairs happily. I'm here to convey what Professor Hagrid said. He has something for me to convey to you and Harry, but I didn't wait for Harry. Do you know where Harry and the others went? Professor Hagrid. Lyn Sha didn't react for a while. If Professor Hagrid had something to convey to Harry or Ronald, they would have nothing to complain about, but why would he suddenly find himself? Yes, our last class was on the protection of magical animals. Luna looked at the words behind Lyn Sha and said. In those words, a knight in armor was chasing everything. The knight runs back and forth in several frames. Many people in the frame were full of complaints. Lyn Sha has long been accustomed to Luna's way of speaking. If she looks at you and speaks, it is a rarer way. If so, that means Luna is serious and has something important to say. Lyn Sha didn't rush Luna either. Turning to look in the direction of Luna's line of sight, it was really interesting. Professor Hagrid stopped me after class and said, let me give you and Harry a message, remember to find him at night, you know the way. Luna continued after a pause. Lyn Sha rubbed Luna's blonde hair and suddenly asked, how is Mr. Lovegood lately? Hearing Lyn Sha asking about her father, Luna's eyes slightly curved and her tone was brisk, well, very good. Dad said that life hasn't changed much, it's just that the place of residence has changed. He also said if you have time, I hope you can visit the house again. You know, last time he said he didn't treat you well. Lyn Sha smiled and said a word of thanks to Mr. Lovegood. For the next long time, Lyn Sha and Luna didn't say a word, they just silently looked at the knight in the painting on the wall. Although neither of them knew what the knight was chasing. But the two of them watched with relish. He didn't mind the eyes of others at all. Occasionally, if the DA members wanted to say hello to Luna and Lyn Sha, they were all dragged away by their companions. They were so excited to see what coaxed. After all, the members of the DA club have long since called out the joke that Luna is Lyn Shao's concubine. In this way, Lyn Sha and Luna became a beautiful scenery in front of the fat lady's cave. Even many Gryffindor students at the back joined Luna and Lyn Sha in the queue to observe the night. Don't say it yet. Suddenly a lot of Gryffindor students were having fun too. Because they usually seldom pay attention to the picture frames on these walls, they all come and go in a hurry. Didn't expect it to be so interesting. When Lyn Sha came back to his senses, Luna was no longer by his side, and he didn't know when he left. Instead, he found many Gryffindor students around him. Lyn Sha looked at the group of people speechlessly, dropped a sentence of insanity, and got into the Gryffindor common room. Leaving a group of Gryffindor students yelling at Lyn Sha for being shameless. He and Luna were the ones who observed it first, but now they are actually calling them crazy. Damn it guys. It was already dark when Harry and Hermione and Ronald returned to the common room. Lyn Sha, who had been waiting for the three in the common room, was surprised to find that the three of them were each holding a thick stack of books. Obviously they just returned from the library. This made Lyn Sha look at Harry and Ronald with admiration. He didn't expect these two guys to go to the library to study. Oh, kill me, I just reviewed the content of potions. Now I'm tired and really don't want to act at all. Ronald complained and collapsed on the sofa in front of the fireplace. Harry was equally tired and took the book on the ground back into his arms. Wait for me, I'll get the invisibility cloak. Hermione sat directly on the couch where Lyn Sha was, and kept her body close to Lyn Sha, and even put her head on Lyn Shao's shoulder and muttered, I'm so tired, I haven't slept well for a long time recently. Hermione has been really hard lately. Because she has taken many courses, her energy is not enough, sleep time is very short every day, and she often stares at disheveled hair and dark circles. Lyn Sha didn't say much either. Just adjusted her body so that Hermione could rest on her shoulders more comfortably. Almost. When Lyn Sha was walking on the way to Hagrid's hut, he vaguely seemed to know something. Grawp Hagrid's half-brother. Pure-blood giant. A true giant. Although Lyn Sha probably guessed that Hagrid found them probably because of his younger brother Grawp, he clearly remembered that it should not be this time. It seemed that he had to ask Hagrid to take him to the giant's land, which caused many things to change. The four of them were still wearing Harry's invisibility cloak, hiding in the dark and slowly heading towards Hagrid's hut. Just when Harry took out his invisibility cloak. Did anyone notice that Hermione's face suddenly became extremely rosy? Because the last time in Hagrid's hut, Hermione had already discovered that the slightly loose invisibility cloak of the three of them would be crowded due to the addition of Lyn Sha. I don't know if it was intentional or unintentional by these three guys. Hermione still needed to be held by Lyn Sha so that all three could hide under the invisibility cloak. But Hermione didn't say anything. He silently accepted the current situation. It's just that Lyn Sha always feels that a small hand is ravaging the tender meat of his rib. Good guy. This Hermione is a real killer. After walking less than half of the distance, Lyn Sha 250 was also pinched by Hermione and became angry, and he immediately hugged Hermione even tighter. Lyn Shao's sudden action was so frightening that Hermione couldn't even breathe. Lyn Sha didn't stop until Lyn Sha felt the hand holding his soft flesh loosen. Seeing Hermione glaring at himself angrily, Lyn Sha also glared back without showing weakness, and at the same time made a gesture to hug again. This frightened Hermione to beg Lyn Sha with his eyes again and again before giving up. What a joke. It can't heal you. Looking at Lyn Shao's smug look, Hermione's silver teeth were gnashed. But nothing can be done. He lost his eyes angrily. Harry and Ronald on the side were not fools either, but they also pretended to be invisible. However, Lyn Sha was scolded over and over again in his heart. Damn Lyn Sha, can you pay attention to the feelings of the people around you when you flirt? Feeding dog food so blatantly is really too much. Harry, how is your occlumency study recently? Do you feel any special progress? Lyn Sha asked suddenly. While observing the surroundings inside the invisibility cloak, Harry said, I don't know, but I don't have any nightmares recently. It should be an improvement. And I don't seem to be emotionally affected recently. Ronald also quickly echoed, indeed. Harry has a much better temper than last semester, and he rarely gets angry all of a sudden. Saying this, Ronald laughed happily. After all, Harry's temper in last semester was really terrible, and some small problems would make Harry extremely irritable. Not even angry with him. But Ronald didn't care, and often the two would get back together after a while. Harry gave Ronald an apologetic look. Some time ago, it was really hard. Ronald endured his sudden nervous temper. Harry and Ronald were also opened by this sentence, and kept talking about when Harry was suddenly angry. But Lyn Sha was silent. Harry probably thought it was his progress on occlumency. But Lyn Sha knew. The truth is quite the opposite. In fact, it wasn't that Harry made progress, it was Voldemort's breakthrough in the wonderful connection between him and Harry. It wasn't that the success of Harry's self-enclosed brain wasn't affected by Voldemort's soul fragment. Instead, it was Voldemort who was cutting ties with Harry recently. Created the illusion that Harry's occlumency was progressing. Lyn Sha reminded Harry intentionally. But when he thought of Harry's character, he still didn't say anything. Hey, your hand. Suddenly Hermione's voice as thin as a mosquito entered Lyn Shao's ears. My hand. Lyn Sha moved both hands, and Hermione's body in his arms instantly stiffened. I didn't mean to believe you. Lyn Sha hurriedly moved his hand, but did not, wait for Hermione's answer. The next journey Harry and Ronald chatted more and more. Instead, Lyn Sha and Hermione fell silent, not knowing what they were thinking. Soon. The four of them clasped the invisibility cloak and knocked on the door of Hagrid's hut. Wong wong wong. Oh, damn Fong, I said 1,000 times don't stand in the door, you stupid bastard. Inside the hut, there was a cry of Fongya, followed by a ping ping pong pong sound. When the door opened, Hagrid turned sideways to face the empty doorway, making a gesture of letting people out of the way. After confirming that Lyn Sha and others entered the room, Hagrid stuck his head out and looked around before closing the door, making sure no one else was following. Oh, dear Harry, you haven't had any classes lately, so I can only ask that little girl Luna to give you a message. It seems that my words are well conveyed to you. Hagrid grinned happily when he saw the four people in the room who had just removed the invisibility cloak. Fongya rushed towards Hermione for the first time. Don't know why. Every time Hermione came to Hagrid's hut, Fongya would rush to Hermione immediately. Enough, Fong, that's enough, go back and do it. 35 Hermione, afraid that Fong would drool all over her magic robe again, stretched out her fingers and ordered Fong. Strange to say. Sometimes Hagrid can't stop talking, but he actually walks over to the fire and wagged his tail. As if to say whether I am very obedient. Harry and Ronald looked at each other, and sure enough, no ferocious creature was as scary as a woman. Hagrid laughed, Hermione, it's not an easy thing to make you obedient. It seems that you have a natural affinity for animals. Hey, is it cold outside? Hermione, why are you so red? Harry and Ronald looked at Hermione, and sure enough Hermione's face was very rosy. Hermione faltered a little and changed the subject and said, maybe you're going too fast, nothing. Hagrid, did you come to us for something? Although Hermione said so, she scolded Lyn Sha in her heart. Damn stinky guy. If it wasn't for him being so dishonest, how could he be so blushing? Lyn Sha coughed twice as if I didn't know it, which made Hermione even more secretly clench her silver teeth into pieces. Hagrid poured a cup of tea for the four of them, with a solemn tone with a hint of pleading. I need you to accompany me to the Forbidden Forest. There is a very special thing that needs your help, especially Lyn Sha. Maybe wait for you. The thinking will make some changes. Forbidden Forest. Hermione was a little surprised. Although Hogwarts has banned students from entering the ban. But the three of them have been regular visitors to the Forbidden Forest in recent years. Harry and Ronald also looked at each other suspiciously, waiting for Hagrid to tell them the reason. When Lyn Sha took the teacup that Hagrid handed over with an unknown tea, he realized that the injury on Hagrid's face was even more serious by the dim firelight in the room. Not only did 2 new bruises appear on the face covered with the long beard, there were even traces of nosebleeds on the nose. Thinking of what I said 2 days ago to wait until Hagrid's injury got better before leaving. Lyn Sha can't wait to slap himself both in the face now. He had forgotten that Hagrid had some injuries that were simply not going to get better. Because he not only brought his half-brother Grawp back from the giant's territory, but also raised him in the Forbidden Forest. The injuries on his face were caused by Grawp. Never mind that Hagrid is Grawp's half-brother. But you must know that Grawp is a true pure-blooded giant. Even though he is short among the giants, he is still huge compared to Hagrid, the half-blooded giant. Damn it! How could I forget this one? If this is really according to what he said, when Hagrid's damage is better, he will leave. It is estimated that he will wait until the year of the monkey and the month of the horse. No wonder when he said that. Hagrid had a palpable flash of unnaturalness. At this time, it was not only Lyn Sha who discovered the injury on Hagrid's face, Hermione and others also discovered that both of Hagrid's eyes had turned blue. Hagrid, have you been working hard lately? Are you caring for a grumpy animal? Harry asked with concern. Ronald and Hermione both looked at Hagrid. Hagrid frowned and said, yes, it's not an animal, but. Forget it, you'll find out when you come with me, but you must help me keep it a secret, this matter is very important to me, you can? Harry nodded earnestly, saying that they would definitely help Hagrid keep secrets. Hagrid is also rarely showing a smile. Come on, hurry up. Hagrid didn't explain much, got up and picked up a large bow and arrow hanging on the wall and turned around and asked, you have wands, right? I hope you all have them. Why is Hagrid carrying a weapon? Harry said. Hermione was a little worried. You have never brought a bow and arrow in front of us. Are we facing any danger? When it comes to danger, Ronald's immediately goes green. Because he thought of something. There was something he was most afraid of in the ban that was strictly forbidden for students to enter, and that was the huge 8-eyed spider. Hagrid, won't you take us to that Aragog? No, hurry up, before it's too late. Hagrid didn't seem to want to explain more here, but kept urging Harry and the others to move faster. Lyn Sha also knew more or less about the dangers of the Forbidden Forest. The Forbidden Forest also has a name, which is called the Dark Forest. It is located on the edge of the Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry grounds and is home to many dangerous and magical beasts as well as ancient magical beasts. But if anyone wants to go in and find out, then you have to prepare for the existence that may die at any time. True to its name, Forbidden Forest, this is a dangerous forest that is restricted to entry. All that Lyn Sha knows about is the 8-eyed spider swarm, thestrals, unicorns, centaurs, werewolves, flying tanglias, Lu Wei, hippogriffs. Of course, there are many more creatures that actually live in it. If there is no familiar person to lead the way, an intruder never knows what to expect next. Of course, Hagrid wasn't among the intruders. The Forbidden Forest may be dangerous to others, but it is nothing to Hagrid, who loves the Forbidden Forest. Lyn Sha saw Hermione, whose pretty face was pale, and whispered next to her ear, "Follow me, don't worry, I'm here, if you're afraid, you can hold my hand." If it was normal, Hermione must have thought that this was Lyn Sha taking advantage of himself. But this time Hermione nodded seriously. "Hagrid, can I take Fanya?" Ronald looked at Hagrid with a trembling voice, and pointed to Fanya, who was beside him. "I'm afraid not, dear Ronald." Hagrid grabbed the doorknob. "If Fanya goes, he might be offended, and we can't take him. 5. It would be better if Hagrid didn't say that." After saying this, it's not just Hermione, Ronald's face collapsed instantly. Looking at Harry for help. Harry dropped a line of trusting Hagrid and walked out. 0. Ask for flowers. "Lyn Sha, I just heard, can I hold your hand if I'm afraid?" Ronald cried and prayed. Lyn Sha almost hit his face with his wand after hearing this. The ears are rather pointed. He heard his own voice so small just now. Lyn Sha didn't answer Ronald, but held Hermione in one hand and the dove tree wand he didn't use often in the other, while shrugging. "You see. There was nothing I could do either, my hands were busy." Perhaps Hermione was really frightened by Hagrid's words, and she held Lyn Shao's palm tightly without the slightest shyness. Only in this way can she feel safe in her heart. Seeing the back of Lyn Sha pulling Hermione away, Ronald said something that was really not a brother and hurriedly followed. 0. Hagrid's stride is big. Often when he took one step, Lyn Sha and others had to take 3 or 4 steps to keep up. At first, it was fine before entering the Forbidden Forest. At least under the moonlight, everyone felt a little more at ease. But after entering the Forbidden Forest, only a small amount of moonlight could reach the ground under the shield of the towering trees, but even so, Harry and others could not see the surrounding situation. Plus Hagrid's walking speed was so fast that on several occasions everyone almost tripped over the branches on the ground. It wasn't until Lyn Sha quickly hugged Hermione, who almost fell, that he shouted to Hagrid in front of him, "Hagrid, is there any problem with lighting the wand?" Hagrid hurriedly turned around and made a silent gesture, indicating that everyone should be quieter. "No problem, just try to keep quiet." Hermione's expression brightened. "That's great." Lyn Sha and others whispered at the same time, "Fluorescent flashes." The 4-bar wand briefly lit up a beam of light at the same time, which made everyone feel at ease. At least. No more tripping due to lack of light. However, everyone could see the tension and sadness on Hagrid's face from the flickering beams of light. The depth of entering the Forbidden Forest this time is far beyond everyone's imagination. They followed Hagrid a long way, but Hagrid had no intention of slowing down. Harry struggled to pull his way through the thick thorns, and said, "Hagrid, Professor Phasrin has left the Centaurs, didn't they say anything?" 5. "You said Fezzelin." "Of course he said something, those guys almost gave Fezzelin to death. If I hadn't just arrived, maybe you wouldn't have seen that guy Fezzelin." Hagrid calmly seemed to be saying something trivial. "Why did those Centaurs treat Professor Fezzelin like that? I can feel that he is very kind. Hermione's crisp voice sounded. Perhaps it was because Lyn Sha had been holding her hand tightly all the way, so that she had no fear at the beginning and could already do normal thinking. Because Fezzelin was working for Professor Dumbledore, it made them feel very angry. I couldn't say how friendly they were before, at least they wouldn't have any hostility towards me, and they would even help me when I needed some answers. But not now. The last time I saw them, they couldn't hide their anger at all. Since I saved Fezzelin from them, they didn't welcome me, and even started to hate me. Hagrid said with some annoyance. After all, Centaurs are usually intelligent and gifted at divination. Whenever Hagrid was in trouble, the Centaurs offered him some very pertinent advice. Unfortunately, since they rescued Fezzelin, he may never have this chance again in the future. For this matter, it's a pity for Hagrid. After all, the difficulties he faces every day to take care of those magical animals are not 1 or 2. Then are we here because of the Centaurs? Ronald said with some concern. Remember that horses are a group. Think about that number. If it is really for the Centaurs, Ronald is worried that his life will not be guaranteed. Don't wait for Hagrid to answer. Lyn Sha said, "Don't worry, Ronald, I promise it's not a Centaur. But I think it must be something scarier than a Centaur. Don't you see the injury on Hagrid's face?" 5. Lyn Sha is also adding a little fun to the boring hurry, and scare Ronald. Hagrid is a half-blooded giant. He is 3.5 meters tall. Think about what kind of creature can make Hagrid hurt. Ronald immediately burst into tears and his pupils trembled. He was really frightened by Lyn Shao's words. "You're so annoying, Lyn Sha." Hermione, of course, knew that this was Lyn Shao's prank, and said with a smile. Lyn Sha shook hands firmly and winked at Hermione. Hermione was amused and giggled. At this moment, perhaps approaching the crux of the journey, Hagrid, who was walking at the forefront, suddenly raised his right hand, signaling everyone to keep quiet. Everyone keep quiet, and make sure to be very quiet. Hagrid's expression was tense, causing everyone's hearts to hang. Lyn Sha felt the palm of his hand getting closer and closer, and patted Hermione's shoulder lightly to make her not nervous. They crept forward. It wasn't long before Hermione noticed that they were moving towards a massive object that looked vaguely like a mound. Looks like some kind of animal's lair. The surrounding of the mound was a mess, and the uprooted trees were scattered around. It could be guessed that this creature must have a huge brute force. Stop. Hagrid turned suddenly and growled. Lyn Sha and the others also quickly stopped and looked at the huge mound, holding the wand tightly, preparing to cast a spell on the dangerous creatures that might appear later. This is a sound similar to the work of a huge bellows reaching everyone's ears. Breathing. It was the sound of breathing from the lungs of some large creature at work. There was a rhythmic rumble. Hermione looked at the mound tremblingly, completely terrified. She couldn't even believe her own eyes. What kind of creature can be so huge? She couldn't find the answer in her knowledge-filled brain at this moment, and she was about to cry. Hagrid. 33 Hermione said in a barely audible voice, who is it? That's right. That's what Hermione uses. In Hermione's view, this is some kind of huge creature, not associated with giants. After all, who would have thought that a tyrannical giant would appear in the Forbidden Forest? Harry and Ronald also found the question at the moment, what is that? It occurred to Hermione at this moment, her belated reaction finally finding the answer in her mind. That's giant. That was a true pure-blooded giant. Finding the answer didn't make Hermione feel at ease, instead it made Hermione even more frightened, and now she even crawls into Lyn Shao's arms. Hagrid, you told me, you didn't get the giant's promise. Hermione shuddered, you said none of them wanted to come to Hogwarts. Harry and Ronald looked at Hermione, and then at the huge mound. The blood on his face was drained instantly. Everyone looked at the mound in horror, and the terrifying sense of oppression made them breathless. Hagrid suddenly became extremely excited. I can't help it, he doesn't really want to come, but I can't help it, you don't know, he's still small, he's too short, they all bully her, I can't pretend to be invisible. 5. Hagrid's voice was a little choked by this time, and big drops of tears fell. When she left my father, she found another giant, and then he was left, and he was my half-brother, Grawp. Trust me, he was harmless, I taught him lots of courtesy, he'll die if he doesn't bring it over, all the giants are bullying him in 1:99. Hagrid's voice was prayerful and sincere. At this moment, Lyn Shao's head was a little sluggish, it was really Hagrid's half-brother Grawp, he really guessed right. Looking at Grawp, who is at least twice the size of Hagrid, Lyn Sha did not have the slightest fear. Instead, a very strange idea kept circling in his mind. What kind of fierce man was Hagrid's father? How did such a gigantic figure accomplish that sacred ritual? Grawp turned his back to Hagrid and the others. A rope almost as thick as a small tree was wrapped around him, and it was firmly tied to the thickest tree around. Grawp looked a little misshapen. Huge head that looked like a mossy stone. I don't know if this is the characteristic of a giant, but Grawp's head and body are much larger than normal people, and he looks like a big-headed sun. That perfect sphere was covered with curly hair. Grawp was wearing what looked like a brown smock roughly sewn with animal fur, a wide smock that was dirty and worn, but covered most of his body. Not to mention that Hermione was frightened enough now. Neither Harry nor Ronald was much better, and took 2 steps back in fear. Hagrid, are you asking us to take care of him? Harry said hollowly. Yeah, even if you're just here to talk to him, Hagrid said hopefully, I guess if he could talk to humans, he'd know better that we like him and hope he stays. Harry didn't answer, but turned to look at Lyn Sha. 07. But surprisingly, Harry didn't see any fear from Lyn Shao's face, instead he looked indifferent. As if the giant in front of him is not scary. Hermione smiled weakly and didn't refute Hagrid's words, which made Hagrid especially happy. So you agreed? Hagrid asked cautiously. We'll try, Hagrid. Hermione gave a bitter smile. Although Hermione resisted her fear and agreed, Lyn Sha could still feel Hermione's body trembling in her arms. Now no one cares how Hermione ran into Lyn Shao's arms. Ronald even envied that Hermione had someone he could rely on. If he could, he really wanted to exchange with Hermione, and he didn't know how Lyn Sha could sit so calmly, he was a giant. Lyn Sha, I brought you here to show you what a real giant is, and you have also seen Grawp. His name is Grawp. Grawp is a short among giants, he is only 6 feet tall, and true giants are well over 20 feet tall. Hagrid turned to look at Lyn Sha while preparing to wake up Grawp. He asked Lyn Sha to come here with him for a very clear reason. Just to let Lyn Sha see the size of the giant with his own eyes, he was afraid that Lyn Sha didn't have a general concept of the giant before he said the kind of words that he wanted to find the giant. But Hagrid was disappointed. Because Lyn Sha has maintained a calm that does not match his age from beginning to end. There was not even the slightest panic when he saw Grawp. Instead of being frightened by Grawp's huge body, he smiled to comfort the frightened Hermione. Both Harry and Ronald turned to look at Lyn Sha because of Hagrid's words, not understanding what Hagrid's words meant. Why let Lyn Sha see the real giant? Is there something wrong with Hagrid and Lyn Sha? But before Harry and Ronald could think more, Hagrid had already stepped over the huge tree trunk and walked towards Grawp, picking up a long trunk on the ground at the same time. What no? Hermione jumped out of Lyn Shao's arms immediately. Hagrid, no. Don't wake him up, really, we really don't need dash. But Hermione's scream didn't stop Hagrid from waking Grawp up. Seeing Hagrid stab Grawp, the giant let out a roar, echoing in the silent forest, and in an instant countless birds flew up in fright. The giant Grawp staggered and stood on the ground with his hands, turning his head to look around. He wanted to see who had woken him up. Hagrid stood by and said in as soft and pleasant a tone as possible, "How is it? Is Grawp sleeping well? You see, I've brought you new friends." Ronald's face turned green now. "Where are you?" Grawp brought new friends, obviously new jelly beans for him. "Harry, are we really going to help take care of him?" Gollum. Ronald pulled Harry's sleeve nervously and swallowed hard. But Harry didn't have time to talk to Ronald either. As Grawp got up, the rope on the other end of the rope on his bare wrists and feet began to squeak and squeak. He looked around dimly, and his hand the size of a parasol grabbed the small tree beside him and uprooted it. After getting up, I smashed to the ground, venting my dissatisfaction. "Oh dear Grawp, don't make a fuss, you see there are new friends I brought you to see you. Remember? I said I'd bring you some new friends, and sometimes they'd take care of me instead of me. Don't you think they're cute?" Hagrid looked at Grawp carefully, and tried his best to stand between Grawp, Lyn Sha and others. Prevent Grawp from suddenly rushing towards them. But when facing Hagrid, Grawp let out a low roar, as if he understood Hagrid's words and walked directly towards Lyn Sha and the others. "Oh, Hagrid. Don't!" Hermione moaned. Hagrid used a branch to slap Grawp's knees, and pointed to where Lyn Sha and the others were. "See? Look down, you stupid bastard." 35. Under Hagrid's command, Grawp lowered his head and began to look at the four little beans in front of him. Right. Perhaps in Grawp's eyes, they are not even little beans, just walking two-legged beasts. This is Harry Potter, see? He has black eyes and hair. This is Ronald Weasley crying, "Oh please." Ronald smiles and makes him feel your kindness. 35 Hagrid said. Ronald said, full of words. Ronald squeezed out a smile that was uglier than crying, and even waved his hand to Grawp. "This is Hermione Granger, she is a very gentle girl, you must be gentle with him. If I go on a long trip, the three of them will take care of you in my place. Hermione, do you mind if he teaches you?" Hermione is a difficult word for him, Hagrid said hesitantly. 250. "No, I don't mind at all," Hermione screamed. Hagrid didn't introduce Lyn Sha to Grawp, because it was totally unnecessary. He thought very simply. Even with that magical portal, Hagrid thinks it must be another time-consuming journey. During that time, Hermione and others needed to take care of his half-brother Grawp. Instead, there is no need to introduce Lyn Sha to Grawp. But what Hagrid didn't know was that although Hagrid intentionally didn't let Grawp and Lyn Sha get to know each other, Lyn Sha was thinking of Grawp at the moment. This time, going to the giant's territory to make the giant surrender will not be smooth. Perhaps it is very possible to kill some giants with a knife. If the giant chief who did not like to submit to him, then Lyn Sha would definitely not keep such a scourge. Then comes the problem. Once the giant loses its chief and needs to reappear a chief who can lead the giant, then Grawp in front of him may be a good choice. Lyn Sha thought of this and looked at Hagrid with some playfulness. "Hagrid, your half-brother is likely to become a giant chieftain." Grawp crouched down and looked at Hermione curiously. Although Grawp's reminder is huge, it can be seen from his face that he is a little immature, and there is a hint of doubt in his big eyes. Like thinking Hermione if they were toys or food. "This is Hermione, Grawp. She'll come to see you in the future, please listen to her, little one." Hagrid tried to keep his tone calm, so as not to startle Grawp. Grawp's head rushed towards Hermione, and Hermione screamed and hid behind Lyn Sha, daring not to show her head. Hermione stuck her head out. Looking at Grawp who was close at hand, he whimpered, "Bad boy. You can't catch me. Lyn Sha, you damn bastard, I definitely can't spare you, ah 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 ah." Hermione suddenly burst into a shrill scream, as if she was about to break her throat. "Lyn Sha. I will never forgive you, I hate you, I will never say a word to you, I swear." Hermione, who was caught in Grawp's hands, cursed Lyn Sha like crazy. Harry and Ronald looked at Lyn Sha dumbfounded, wondering why he did that just now. Hagrid panicked, too, but he was so afraid that Grawp could only stand there and patiently persuade. "We said, you can't arrest people, right? This is your new friend, Hermione, remember her name?" Lyn Sha touched his nose and looked at Hermione in embarrassment. Just as Grawp approached, Lyn Sha actually dragged Hermione who was behind him to him. And with a slight push in Hermione's disbelieving eyes, Hermione managed to run into Grawp's hands. If it is explained in another way, it is that Lyn Sha personally delivered Hermione to Grawp's hands. Hermione nearly collapsed in that instant. She didn't know why Lyn Sha, whom she trusted so much, would do this. She really couldn't understand. Lyn Sha is actually not like that. To be honest, seeing Hermione so terrified, he must have been distressed. But in order to consider the future, Lyn Sha still had to make this backstab. Lyn Sha has now decided to send Grawp to the position of the giant chief, and he will definitely make all the giants submit to Grawp's feet. As for how he surrendered to Lyn Sha, he didn't mind. He had to do it all, even if he surrendered because he was afraid of his presence. Then, in order to manage the giants well through Grawp during his absence in the future, he needs an existence that he can trust. Hermione is undoubtedly the best candidate. Lyn Sha can completely trust him. In this case, some links are essential, at least for Hermione and Grawp to establish a basic friendship. Not that in the future Grawp will not listen to Hermione. Hermione, in Grawp's hand, looked like a delicate doll, but with a terrified face. Suddenly, Hermione stopped cursing at Lyn Sha, she pointed her finger at Grawp, and said sternly, "Grawp, let me down." In an instant it was all quiet. Hermione instantly burst into a tigress-level aura that made everyone stunned. Ronald snapped Lyn Sha and whispered, "You're done, Lyn Sha." Trust me, Hermione is absolutely pissed. Harry also cast a sympathetic look at Lyn Sha. "Now, put me down." Hermione snapped again. The voice fell, and a magical scene happened. Grawp, who was still a little irritable just now, looked like a child who had done something wrong. With a look of grievance on his face, he took 2 steps back, and slowly put Hermione on the ground. Hagrid stared at the scene with his mouth wide open. How can that be? Grawp didn't even listen to his own words, so how could he listen to Hermione's words so much? Hermione didn't expect that Grawp would really put himself down, and after landing, he turned around and charged at Lyn Sha. Damn it! Why would you do this? Do you know that this is a giant? If in case. Hermione's voice choked and thumped Lyn Sha, but before she could say a few words, she felt something on her back. Something hit hard. Grawp cautiously touched Hermione with a bicycle front bracket, but his caution was heavy for Hermione. Hermione stared blankly at the thing in her hand, not knowing what to say for a while. Seeing the good bell and the expectant look in Grawp's eyes, Hermione tried to move the bell to make a crisp sound. Grawp immediately gave a very childish smile. Hermione suddenly felt that Grawp was not so dangerous, but rather cute. Only. Next second. Ow. Hermione, listen to my explanation. Lyn Sha jumped up in pain, making Harry and Ronald laugh. Do not live by sin. We can't help you now. But this time Hermione proved with facts that it is the most terrifying thing for a woman to get angry. Did not see the giant are afraid of it. Although Lyn Shao's intentions were good, Hermione couldn't understand why he would be very angry. Hagrid laughed happily. Oh, it seems that I can rest assured now. At least someone will help me take care of Grawp when I'm not around. Perhaps because Hermione and the others can live in harmony with Grawp, the happy Hagrid has become more casual. During your absence. Hagrid, did Professor Dumbledore give you a new assignment? Didn't you just come back? Ronald asked suddenly. Hagrid patted Grawp. Well, I'm going to go to the giant forest with Lyn Sha, over there. Ahem, no. What did I just say? I said with Madame Maxime went to the forest of giants. Although Hagrid changed his words in time, Hermione and the others had already listened to the previous words. Go to giant forest with Lyn Sha. Still go. Harry and Ronald looked at Lyn Sha in shock, their minds blank. Hagrid stroked his beard brightly and coughed to ease the embarrassment of his omission. To Lee's. Lyn Sha looked at Hagrid in amazement. He knew that things like Hagrid couldn't keep secrets, but how could he slip up at this juncture? When Hermione heard that Lyn Sha was going to go to the giant forest with Hagrid, she didn't have time to get angry with Lyn Sha anymore. She looked at Lyn Sha in a panic, trying to see from his expression that what Hagrid said was true or false. But it doesn't matter. She actually saw that Lyn Sha was calm and did not fluctuate. Hermione still knew Lyn Sha well. Often he made this look, which meant that what Hagrid was saying was true. He immediately shouted, Lyn Sha. You want to go with Hagrid to the giant forest? Don't you know how dangerous it is there? Hearing Hermione's scream, Lyn Sha suddenly had a headache. Hagrid threw an apologetic look at Lyn Sha first, then turned to play with Grawp. He was already surprised by it himself. Sometimes he couldn't control himself and said some secrets without realizing it. Looking at Hermione's worried look in front of him, Lyn Sha motioned her to calm down. I really want to go to the giant forest with Hagrid, I have something to do. You're taking a break? Harry demanded. Although Harry knew that Lyn Sha was unusual, he didn't know anything about the Gate of Suspended Rings. Subconsciously, I thought that Lyn Sha might have to take a leave of absence this semester. Ronald was full of admiration. Lyn Sha, I admire you. Didn't you listen to Hagrid just now? Grawp is a short stature. A real giant is about 8 meters or even taller. It has to take that long, and it should take a few days. If it goes well, it might only take a day or two. Lyn Sha looked at Harry. Hermione was silent instead. She was the only one among the three who knew that Lyn Sha had the door of the ring, and as Lyn Sha said, it really didn't take a long time like Hagrid. But thinking about the scene where the giants from 250 to 70 and 80 were together, Hermione's face turned pale again. She admits that Lyn Sha is very powerful. Even Hermione secretly guessed whether Lyn Shao's real strength would be as strong as Dumbledore. But going to the giants' land is no joke. A careless person is likely to be chewed by those bloodthirsty and brutal giants as jelly beans. This made Hermione even forget to continue to be angry with Lyn Sha, standing in front of Lyn Sha waiting for his explanation. She wondered why Lyn Sha had to go to such a dangerous place as the giant forest. Lyn Sha also had a headache. He can't always say that there is a guy called Supreme Mage System in his head, and it gave me the reward task to make the giants surrender to him. This is something that doesn't show up at all. But Lyn Sha had already thought of a countermeasure. In fact, from the very beginning, Lyn Sha vaguely felt that Hagrid, the big mouth, would miss out. This is not Lyn Shao's prejudice. History proves that Hagrid doesn't have too many secrets unintentionally leaked, not to mention dozens of things and a dozen things after all. Cough, Lyn Sha coughed twice, then looked very serious. I think the Death Eaters are trying to contact the Death Eaters, I'm going to check. 35. The voice fell. Harry said anxiously, then I'll go too, it's too dangerous for you to go by yourself. 99. If Harry goes, then I'll go too, I'll protect you, don't worry. Ronald poked his neck and pretended to be calm. But those trembling lips didn't look like they could protect Lyn Sha. Hermione's eyes were firm and stubborn. He didn't speak, but the meaning was clear, she was going too. Oh, no, dear Harry, Hermione, you can't go. This matter is approved by Headmaster Dumbledore, and I won't take any of you without his approval. Hagrid shouted hastily, and he must not let him in such a dangerous place. The three little guys followed. The Forest of Giants is very complicated. If it wasn't for the consent of Principal Dumbledore, he wouldn't even tell Lyn Sha where the giant perched. Hagrid was a little puzzled. When did the Death Eaters touch the giants? How could he not know? But Hagrid didn't take it to heart, and Quan was the excuse that Lyn Sha made for not revealing his specific purpose. But this thing really needs attention. Think of it this way. The last time I and Mrs. Maxime visited the giants' territory, something was really wrong. Could it be because the Death Eaters were also in contact with them as Lyn Sha said? Although it is not clear where Lyn Sha got the information, it seems that he wants to report the news to Principal Dumbledore. Where does Lyn Sha have any intelligence sources? He remembered that in the Battle of Hogwarts, the Death Eaters had the participation of giants, that must have been contact in advance, and this was a reason to deceive Hermione and the others. Hearing Hagrid's words, Harry's face crossed, Ronald's expression looked like he had survived the catastrophe. Finally, he didn't have to go to the giants' land. Get Headmaster Dumbledore to agree? How can this be agreed? Harry opened his mouth and finally gave up. Headmaster Dumbledore said. His main task now is to learn occlumency as soon as possible, and not to have any induction with the Voldemort fragments in his soul. This is the most important thing. Although Hermione was unwilling, she knew that Lyn Sha would definitely not agree to go. Promise me, come back safely, it is good. Okay, I guess it's almost the end of the day. Hagrid said. We're going back now, okay? Lyn Sha and Hermione nodded. Hagrid took up the bow and arrow again and led them back toward the bushes to reach out. Grawp sat on the ground and started toying with the little toys that Hagrid had collected for him. On the way back, neither of them spoke. Everyone is thinking about things in their hearts. Hermione still held Lyn Shao's hand tightly and followed behind him without saying a word. Sudden. Stop, Hagrid said suddenly. At the same time Hagrid took an arrow from the quiver on his shoulder and placed it on his huge bow. Hagrid's actions fools know that something is approaching. Ronald and Harry hurriedly leaned together and raised their wands, while Lyn Sha held Hermione behind him and stared in the direction of the voice. A creature is approaching. And there are many more. Listening to the dense thumping sound, I roughly judged that this was some kind of biological group dispatched. Everyone's expressions suddenly became tense. I think I told you, Hagrid, a somber boy said, you're not welcome here. A man's bare upper body emerges from the shadows. Lyn Sha saw that below his waist were not human legs, but a brown horse body. The horseman had a proud face with prominent cheekbones, and long black hair. At the same time, like Hagrid, he carried a barrel full of arrows and a longbow slung over his shoulders. "Hello, Marjorie," Hagrid said warily. In his hand, he secretly filled the bow. This was the first time Lyn Sha had seen a horse. Looking at the figures constantly moving in the shadows around, Lyn Sha understood that this was a complete community. This makes them have to be vigilant. After all, the centaurs who appeared said they were no longer welcome here. Marjorie kept walking back and forth, looking at Hagrid and others with disgust and resistance in his eyes. With the sound of rustling, 2 more centaurs appeared behind him. Harry recognized the black body, the bearded one as Bane, whom he had seen when he met Professor Fazelin 4 years ago, but Bane pretended not to know Harry and them. "I think we all agreed, what should we do if this person's face appears in the Forbidden Forest again?" Bane's voice was full of disgust at the person in front of him. "This man. He sold our knowledge and secrets to mankind." Marjorie said calmly, "This is a traitor, you should not stop us from punishing him, so now the Forbidden Forest does not welcome you." "Your Forbidden Forest?" Hagrid said angrily. "No. It doesn't belong to you centaurs who only live here. At least that doesn't belong to you, Hagrid." Marjorie remained calm, as if he could not see that Hagrid was on the verge of anger. Bane interrupted Marjorie and said, "Marjorie, these are his students, who may have benefited from the teaching of that traitor Fizeron, and I think we should take back what belongs to us." 39. Saying that, Bane took off the bow and arrow on his shoulder, grabbed an arrow from the quiver and put it on it. Accompanying Bane's almost offensive move, a rustling sound suddenly sounded behind him, and it sounded like a group of archers were preparing. This terrified Harry and the others. "Hold the wand firmly." Lyn Sha was also secretly preparing for the conflict that might occur. Feeling the coldness of Hermione's palm, Lyn Sha smiled and said, "Don't worry, everything will be with him and no one will hurt her. Killing a brat is a shameful crime, so we don't know. Today, Hagrid, we let you go, and from now on, you'd better stay away from here. When you helped that traitor Fizeron, our friendship has been lost." Marjorie was clearly the manager of the Centaurs. When he finished speaking, the shadows behind him were much quieter. "I won't leave the band for someone as old as you," Hagrid yelled, unaware that they were in danger right now. "Hagrid!" Marjorie roared suddenly and angrily, "Don't you want to walk out of this forbidden forest? You have to thank me for letting you go this time. You'd better leave before I change your mind." Marjorie had lost patience. If it weren't for his friendship with Hagrid and many considerations, he would definitely teach these guys a hard lesson. But Hagrid is so stubborn, constantly trying to challenge his patience and bottom line. "Ha ha ha, I'm sorry, you continue, don't worry about me." Just as the two sides were arguing, an unusually harsh laughter broke the silence. At the same time, Marjorie's anger surged, and it was on the verge of eruption. However, when he looked at the boy who was laughing, his eyes were suddenly covered with grey, and his entire body was motionless. Bane glared at him too. But just when he wanted to communicate with Marjorie, he realized that something was wrong with Marjorie. "Lyn Sha, what the hell are you doing?" Hermione didn't know why Lyn Sha was so mad all of a sudden, she laughed frantically in this tense atmosphere. "This is not to stimulate this group of horses." Ronald's voice trembled, "Harry, are we going to finish today? This guy Lyn Sha is crazy, should I use some kind of magic spell to get down to the ground? Or turn it all into petrification?" 5. Harry and Hagrid also looked at Lyn Sha at this moment. This guy could laugh a little out of breath at this moment. What made him laugh? "I'm laughing to death, what kind of bullshit concept is this? Just because a certain Centaurus from the tribe teaches at Hogwarts?" Lyn Sha snorted coldly. Ignoring Hermione's pull, he walked directly to the crowd. "Ask for flowers. You Centaurs are extremely pedantic, you think your knowledge is above everything, and you don't like magic and don't like everything. Ridiculous. Sooner or later, your stubbornness will destroy your species completely." Lyn Sha stopped for a long time and couldn't help it. These centaurs are too stubborn. It is a human-like civilization itself, but it blocks itself tightly and does not communicate and progress with the outside world. The tribe has a centaur who has the bravery of a pioneer, but is resisted or even punished by this group of guys. If these centaurs were still so arrogant in front of him, he didn't mind impressing the group of centaurs. "What did you say?" Little dash, how could Bane allow such an insult by a young man? He would start scolding when he opened his mouth. 0. A look of cruelty flashed in Lyn Shao's eyes. But before Bane could say anything, Marjorie suddenly stretched out his arm to stop him from continuing to speak. At the same time, Marjorie took off the bow, arrow, and quiver from her body and threw them on the ground in front of Lyn Sha and everyone else. "Marjorie, what are you doing?" Bane asked in surprise. But Marjorie didn't answer his question. Instead, it seemed like he was completing some kind of sacred ceremony, slowly pacing towards Lyn Sha. Lyn Sha! Hermione screamed and was about to run over, but was grabbed by Hagrid. Don't go there. Hagrid looked shocked, wondering what was going to happen next. I promise Lyn Sha is fine. Despite Hagrid's promise to Hermione, her face was still full of concern. Marjorie took every step seriously and looked at Lyn Sha solemnly. Puff. When Marjorie walked in front of Lyn Sha, the two front legs of the owner's horse body actually knelt directly on the ground, and at the same time, the upper body was bent and the right hand was placed on the left chest. Marjorie's sudden action terrified everyone present. Marjorie! Bane shouted, but received no response. The centaur beside him looked at Marjorie in shock, not knowing what he was doing. Why did Marjorie choose to kneel to that boy? And it's not just kneeling. The gesture of Marjorie has another meaning, that is, surrender. Marjorie actually chose to surrender to this young man. Immediately, there were countless angry roars from the centaurs behind Bane, all rebuking Marjorie for choosing to surrender to a human being. They cannot accept the current situation. But Bane turned his head and roared to stop the rioting of the horse crowd. In this centaur tribe, Bane, Ronan and Mar, 250, Grey rule all centaurs, and many things are decided by the three of them. Marjorie still dominates the trio. It can be said that although these centaurs do not have leaders or chiefs, there are still centaurs who dominate everything. And Marjorie is playing that identity. So it is conceivable. How much impact Marjorie's action will bring to the entire centaurs community, and how much sensation will it cause in the centaurs community? Such behavior. Even more unacceptable to them than Mazellan's behavior as a traitor. But Bane's eyes were extremely complicated. Because he just saw Margaret's strange state, there must be some reason for this. Hagrid pulled Hermione, Ronald and Harry aside. To keep them out of the direction where McGonagall was kneeling, or he feared causing unnecessary trouble. How is this possible, why does McGonagall? This is not normal, why is this? Hagrid was visibly shocked by what he saw, muttering to himself. Harry asked anxiously, what's going on with Hagrid, is the centaur surrendering to Lyn Sha? Submit? Ronald gasped. Looking at Lyn Shao's back facing them in horror, a burst of envy suddenly surged in his heart. Yes, it should be surrender, that's right. But how could these stubborn centaurs choose to surrender? They didn't have a good attitude when they saw Headmaster Dumbledore. Hagrid was still immersed in shock. He had to report the matter to Professor Dumbledore, which was incredible and incomprehensible. Perhaps only Professor Dumbledore could find the answer. Help him solve his doubts. Now everyone in this area who can think has been fooled by McGonagall. The same goes for Lyn Sha. He was prepared to teach this group of people a good lesson. I didn't expect it to develop like this. He was so frightening that McGonagall suddenly stood up at this time and said, stop it. That would be ridiculous. But seeing McGonagall's extremely solemn expression, Lyn Sha felt that things were not so simple. This is Margaret's solemn voice and slowly sounded, Dear Master Mage, the Centaur McGonagall pays tribute to you, I hope to be the first person to be loyal to you, and I hope that my community can be calm under your leadership. Live on. 35. Wow. There was another commotion from the centaurs. But Marjorie was not disturbed by the noisy voice, and still prayed to Lyn Sha devoutly. Do not. Should be surrendered. Please accept the goodwill of the centaurs, my respected mages. We will be your feet and help you to go wherever you want to go. The centaurs will sweep away all the enemies that threaten you, and will help the mages. Giving everything, including life. 5. Boom. Marjorie's words exploded in everyone's minds like thunder. The commotion of the horses stopped. All of them looked at Marjorie's pious figure dumbfounded, and their brains had stopped thinking. What did they hear? They actually heard McGonagall's oath of surrender. Suddenly, why? All the centaurs had only this thought in their minds at the moment, and they couldn't figure out why Marjorie, who was just expelling this group of people, suddenly chose to surrender to this young man. Perhaps the centaurs were startled by McGonagall's sudden move. Or just want to wait for an answer. There was not a single centaur who chose to speak at this time, and all of them stood silently on the spot. Lyn Sha understood. If Lyn Sha hadn't figured out the situation at first. But when the centaur, who calls himself McGonagall Ray, uttered his first words, he understood why he was acting the way he did. Because McGonagall called him Master Mage. Rather than wizards. You must know that all people who can use magic in today's magic world are called wizards. No one would call them mages. Only the future Supreme Mage Lyn Sha will use this mage title. Lyn Shao's eyes were sharp. He didn't know why McGonagall suddenly knew so much after seeing him, and he didn't know how much the centaur in front of him knew. Thinking of this, there was a murderous intent on Lyn Shao's body. There are secrets that others can know. But, there are secrets that only the dead can know. Respect Master Mage, you can rest assured. I don't know your secret, centaurs are born with the ability to divination, and we also have many special divination methods. Perhaps feeling Lyn Zhao's killing intent, McGonagall said very quickly. Lyn Zhao's eyes were uncertain. Finally. Under the extremely tense atmosphere, Lyn Sha gently put the dove tree wand on Marjorie's shoulder, and said coldly, I promise you, Marjorie. I admit you as my first follower. 5. Thanks to the respected Master Mage, the Centaur Marjorie is willing to serve you. Standing up straight, God Margaret 1. 3 was solemn, waiting for Lyn Sha to issue the first order. Go back with your clan, I will ask someone to find you if you need it. Lyn Sha was also polite and ordered Magray to take his clan to leave. Hagrid, Hermione, I think we should go before it's too late. Lyn Sha turned his head and called Hagrid and others. But when he saw Hagrid and the others' dumbfounded eyes, he knew that this time it was a big game. Maybe for a while. They can't accept what just happened. On the way back to Hagrid's hut everyone was tacitly silent. Shu didn't even ask Lyn Sha what happened and why the Centaur Marjorie suddenly surrendered to him. Oh, Fanya, go back and sit down. Hagrid kicked away the enthusiastic Fanya and hung the bow and arrow on his body back to its original position. It's time for you to go back, thank you for being here today. Hagrid really appreciates the 4 of them. After all he knew how troublesome it was to take care of a real giant. Even the dwarf of the giants. Harry and Ronald and Hermione clearly haven't come to their senses, there's so much going on today that their minds feel a little out of place. Don't ask me, I don't know either. Lyn Sha saw several people looking at him and shrugged quickly, we are all together, who knows what the madness of that centaur is all of a sudden. Oh, brother, I really envy you, it's so cool. Ronald put his arms around Lyn Zhao's shoulders excitedly. Thinking of a group of centaurs surrendering, Ronald was inexplicably excited. Come on, Ronald, don't dream of letting Lyn Sha show you the centaurs, be careful that those guys will tear you apart. Hermione gave him an angry look. Ronald smiled and let go of Lyn Zhao's shoulders. Hermione walked over to Lyn Sha and circled him twice, are you hiding something from me? Except going to the giant forest. Lyn Sha shook his head helplessly. Dude, how does this feel like interrogating her husband who doesn't come home at night? Okay, you can go back before it's too late, Hagrid ordered the expulsion directly. Hagrid didn't ask Lyn Sha about the centaurs. However, before Lyn Sha left, he agreed to go to the giant forest together 3 days later. And this time Hermione and none of them spoke. After all, Hagrid had just said that as long as Headmaster Dumbledore agreed, he would take them there. That is obviously impossible. That night, a very important meeting was held in the Forbidden Forest. Marjorie, what the hell are you crazy about, how could you choose to surrender like a human, do you know what you are doing? Bane roared at Marjorie, he was very full of Marjorie's actions just now. This is simply a disgrace to the Centaurs, he is betraying the entire Centaur community. Marjorie was surrounded by a group of Centaurs. All the Centaurs were waiting for him to explain why they had to surrender to the boy in the situation just now. Ronan paced aside. This is a Centaurus with red hair and beard, a shiny brown-red body below the waist, and a long red tail. Don't worry Bane, I'm sure Marjorie has his reasons for doing this. Ronan's voice was more somber and slower than the other Centaurs, but it quieted the nearby Centaurs. Have you forgotten? Marjorie is the most divination Centaur among our Centaurs. In an instant, all the Centaurs fell silent. Marjorie swung 4 hooves and walked slowly to the center of the Centaurs, with a serious expression, I see war, I see killing, I see destruction. 99. Wow. There was a little commotion among the Centaurs. Bane and Ronan's expressions also became solemn. I saw, sporadic war of shards engulfed Hogwarts, Mage was born, reordered, new system was born, Marjorie said intermittently. I can't see it. I can see the boy, the future is going to be terrifying and he can bring us Centaurs back to greatness. 35. The voice fell in the entire area without a trace of sound. Only the horsemen were breathing heavily. There's no need to surrender, we horse people can completely not participate in the war. A voice sounded in the horse crowd. No, it's impossible. Marjorie said calmly, this time no one can escape, and I feel that the Forbidden Forest is no longer safe. Bane and Ronan circled around Marjorie. Heavy thoughts. In just a few hours, Marjorie's attitude changed too much. Let the 2 of you not know what to do. Bane, Ronan, believe me. I saw the strength of that young man, and the giants in the north will soon surrender to his command. If I don't hurry up and become the first group of followers, maybe I won't have a chance in the future. Marjorie drops another bombshell. What? The horse crowd was in an uproar this time. Marjorie even said that the giant tribe of the north would surrender to the boy. Although their centaurs basically never leave the Forbidden Forest, they have their own means of obtaining information. Haven't the giants of the north always surrendered to the Dark Lord? I saw a huge corpse, blood flowed like a river, the huge head fell to the ground, and the appearance of the new king. Magray said that this suddenly screamed and fell heavily to the ground. Bane and Ronan squatted down to look bad. Marjorie fell to the ground panting, "Trust me, Bane, Ronan. A whole new era is coming, the Ministry of Magic is no longer the only law enforcement system, I can only see some fragments, I don't know what happened, but I saw the boy's face and the prosperity of the Centaurs." Bane and Ronan looked at each other, and saw nothing but shock in each other's eyes. You can see Marjorie's current state. Their intuition told them that they should trust 250 Marjorie. This evening, the meeting of the Centaurs in the Forbidden Forest went on for a long time, and it was not until dawn that Marjorie closed his eyes tiredly and rested. Bane, I think we should trust Marjorie. In terms of divination, he and Maze Lyn are the best among our Centaurs. Ronan said, pulling Bane aside. Bane turned his head to look at the sleeping Marjorie and sighed, well, this is not a very easy decision, it will break the long tradition of Centaurs. Ronan looked at a ray of morning sun not far away and said. Maybe Marjorie is right this time, the Dark Lord has returned, the group of eight-eyed spiders have been waiting for Aragog to die, it can't last long, and you know the Dementor better than I do. If Marjorie's prophecy is really one, that boy will conquer the giants of the north, perhaps it is worth our belief, it seems that this time we can't escape this battle. I understand. The next day, Hagrid came to Principal Dumbledore's office early. Although he hadn't told Headmaster Dumbledore that he had brought back his half-brother from the giant forest in the north, Dumbledore already knew about it. Instead, it was Headmaster Dumbledore who brought it up. And asked Harry and the others if they would like to help him take care of Grawp occasionally. Thank you, Headmaster Dumbledore, for having no objection to having me in the Forbidden Forest as Grawp's home. Hagrid thanked Professor Dumbledore from the bottom of his heart. Dumbledore bowed his head. Looking up at Hagrid through the tiny glasses on the bridge of his nose, you mean, the Centaurs in the Forbidden Forest surrendered to Lyn Sha. Dumbledore took the word surrender very hard. Seems to be sure if he heard right. After all, Dumbledore and the others knew about the stubbornness of the Centaurs living in the Forbidden Forest, so they repeatedly determined whether Hagrid was using the wrong word. That's right, Headmaster Dumbledore, that is surrender, and Marjorie has done a simple surrender ceremony. Hagrid's expression was serious, showing that he was right. Dumbledore took off his eyes and said to himself, unbelievable, this group of Centaurs would choose to surrender. How is this possible, could it be that Marjorie saw something? Dumbledore was shocked now. It was the first time he had heard of it at Hogwarts in decades. Wrong. It should be the first time in wizarding history. But again, there is no precedent for anyone who can make the Centaur community surrender. Anyone else know about it? Dumbledore said eagerly. Hagrid shook his head and nodded again. Harry, Ronald, and Hermione, no one knows this except the three of them. Good, good, good. Dumbledore said 3 good words in a row. To make Dumbledore, who has always been very stable, say 3 good words in a row, it can be seen how excited this news makes him. Headmaster Dumbledore, do you really believe that Lyn Sha so much? Hagrid asked suddenly for some reason. This question actually bothered him for a long time, but he never asked it out. But this time, with the Centaurs surrendering, Hagrid couldn't hold back his curiosity any longer. Haha, Hagrid, Dumbledore smiled. If we can't choose to believe what Lyn Sha has done so far, who should we believe? 5. A seemingly rhetorical statement. But he answered Hagrid's question cleanly. Really? Lyn Shao's half-year experience is even richer than many Auror's life experiences. The Dark Mark event in Hogsmeade. Christmas Eve, the Quibbler Editor-in-Chief's house attacked. Surrender of the Centaurs. And about to go to the Boreal Forest in search of giants. If any one thing is taken out, it will shake the entire wizarding world and cause a sensation. In particular, he was decisive in the face of the killings of the Death Eaters twice. Still not worth believing. Seeing Hagrid's look, Dumbledore said with a hint of longing, Hagrid. We always thought Harry was our resolve to fight Voldemort, but now everything has changed. Didn't you find it? A lot of things have started to revolve around the boy, not Harry anymore. Boom. Hagrid seemed to have been hit in the head, and the whole person began to be confused. Headmaster Dumbledore, you mean? Dumbledore interrupted Hagrid by raising his hand. I've been thinking about Professor Trelawney's prophecy lately, and I've found that, indeed, as in the prophecy, the trajectory of Destiny's Child has been altered. Yes, that's Harry. 5. Voldemort has not discovered these things now, and is still entangled around his relationship with Harry. This is our chance, and it is also Lyn Shao's chance. Dumbledore had a rare look of relief. Although I'm still looking for some answers, because of this little guy Lyn Sha, I've already found the answer, which is much faster than I thought. But, Hagrid said anxiously, don't we need to protect Harry? Dumbledore gave a hearty laugh. Of course, to protect, and to protect better. Hagrid was relieved to hear this. If he didn't protect Harry well, he was really ashamed of James and Lily. Get ready to go to the Northern Forest with Lyn Sha. I have a feeling that this might be a very special trip for you. Dumbledore said. Hagrid was confused and didn't understand. Not long after Hagrid left the headmaster's office, Dumbledore stared at the photo of the outgoing Hogwarts headmaster and remained silent. Albus, I support your choice. An old man with white beard and hair and a big hook nose said in the middle photo frame. Oh, come on, you can only choose to believe, otherwise what can you do here? A few frames away, an elderly witch sneered. Albus, centaurs are amazing creatures, and they have always existed in the history of magic. Don't underestimate their wisdom, especially when it comes to divination. Sometimes they see a lot more than a fortune teller, said the old wizard in a certain frame. Oh, dear principals, of course I know that Professor Fezzelin has made me understand the wisdom of centaurs' divination, especially that Marjorie, who is known as the most divination talent, voluntarily surrendered. I believe he must have seen something about me. Things you don't know. 99. Dumbledore said lightly. Obviously. The news of the Centaur's surrender from Hagrid has made it difficult for him to calm down even now. It is indeed a magical boy, but it is also very dangerous. Albus, you have to be prepared. 35. An old man with a dark look in his eyes, Lees, said. However, his words obviously aroused the dissatisfaction of the former principals in the picture frames next door. Dumbledore didn't take the headmaster's words to heart. Looking out the window and admiring the beautiful scenery of Hogwarts, I let out a long sigh of relief. At the same time, the students at Hogwarts are all serious about their lessons. Draco Malfoy in Umbridge's office reported excitedly, Professor Umbridge, I may have discovered a large number of illegal societies without your consent. Umbridge looked at Malfoy with doting eyes. Mr. Malfoy, you're as talented as your father, and it's the right choice for you to be the leader of the special investigation team. Malfoy couldn't tell how beautiful he was when he heard this. Then, dear Mr. Malfoy, who are you talking about, the outlaw organizer? Umbridge gave a smile she thought was sweet. Malfoy twitched recently, trying to stay as graceful as possible. I think if there is no right, it will be Harry Potter and Lyn Sha that you hate the most. Harry Potter and Lyn Sha? Hearing the names of these two people, Professor Umbridge smiled like a chrysanthemum in full bloom. He couldn't wait to say, oh, that's great, Malfoy, if you're right, I'll definitely praise you in front of Minister Fudge, so what are we waiting for? Malfoy's mouth twisted into a smirk. Goyle and Crabbe are coming here with a Ravenclaw student, and she'll tell you everything you need to know. Who? Umbridge said. Marietta Eckmore, she's the daughter of Mrs. Eckmore of the Fleur Network Authority of the Department of Magical Transportation, Malfoy said confidently. 250. Umbridge's eyes lit up. Oh, I know Mrs. Eckmore. As expected of a wizard at the Ministry of Magic, her daughter still has the right idea. Soon. Goyle and Crabbe walked into Umbridge's office with a girl with loose blonde hair. Maybe because of a guilty conscience. Mariette Ackmore looked restrained, constantly rubbing her feet. Oh, my poor little one, don't be nervous, I know your mother, and she's an employee I admire. Umbridge handed Mariette a cup of hot tea and told her not to be nervous. Malfoy had thought Umbridge would be impatient. Unexpectedly. She could be so unhurried. Mariette was a little flattered, neither standing nor sitting, and the antics made Goyle and Crabbe cover and snicker. You can sit down comfortably and finish that cup of tea, don't be nervous. Umbridge tried to be kind, but her eyes were sparkling. It is clear. Everything Umbridge is doing right now is acting. Because she knows. If this matter is dealt with properly, Harry Potter will be expelled, which is what Minister Fudge wants most. It must have been a hard blow to that old fellow at Dumbledore. After all, they knew all too well how important Harry Potter was to Dumbledore. I know of an illegal society organizer. Organizers are Gryffindor 5th-year student Harry Potter and first-year freshman Lyn Sha along with dozens of students. Mariette spoke intermittently, looking cowardly from side to side. Dear Mariette, can you say more? Like where are you meeting, what are you doing at the party, or what time is the next meeting? Umbridge blushed with excitement. And Lyn Sha? It's so good, it's so wonderful. This time, not only can Harry Potter be fired, but that pesky Lyn Sha can also be fired. This is really the happiest thing Umbridge has heard in more than half a year. They're learning magic, learning spells, saying you won't learn anything useful in your class. Harry and Lyn Sha are teachers, one teaches us spells and the other teaches us fighting. 9. Puff. Goyle and Crabbe laughed inappropriately. This made Malfoy and Umbridge squinted, and the two of them quickly shut their mouths. Umbridge, who was a little embarrassed, didn't mind, and continued, "You mean Harry and Lyn Sha are forming a student army, right?" "No, Professor Umbridge, I didn't mean that, I only, said they were learning spells and fighting." 35 Marriott's voice was a little choked with fear, and she waved her hands in a panic. She was visibly horrified by Umbridge's words about forming a student army. But Umbridge didn't let her go. "Continue to be aggressive and say, 'Oh, no, my dear.' You can rest assured that no one will embarrass you, I will always help you, and you can feel free to say what you know." Marriott looked at Malfoy as if asking for help, but Malfoy was too lazy to look at her. Those rhetoric before seemed to have turned into fart. "I don't know about the next party. We need to wait for the notification. We have a special contact method. It will remind us that there will be a party at night." Marriott took out the fake gold galleon. Umbridge looked at it and suddenly laughed. "It's really ingenious magic, since they can think of using this method to notify, no wonder Draco and the others can't find evidence." 39. Malfoy snatched the fake Kim galleon from Marriott's hands and threw it back. He finally understood why he couldn't get hold of these guys. It turned out that no one was notified. It's all thanks to such an enchanted fake gold galleon to inform each other. "Then can you inform us at the next meeting?" "Don't worry, I won't let anyone embarrass you, you know that I represent the Ministry of Magic." 35 Umbridge took Marriott's hand and said kindly. Marriott nodded nervously, promising to notify Malfoy in advance for the next meeting. Today is a beautiful day. After sending off the group of children, Umbridge sat on the chair and sipped the hot tea, the smile in the corner of his eyes could not be hidden at all. She is now looking forward to the next meeting of that society. It seems. This time it was their Ministry of Magic finally getting the upper hand, and Professor Dumbledore must have felt the pain. No one knows about Marriott. Even her good friend Xiao Zhang didn't find out. Xiao Zhang just felt that Marriott seemed to have something on her mind recently and was always avoiding her. 2 more quiet days passed. On this day, Hagrid finally found Lyn Sha and said that they should set off to the north to find the giant. On the same day, Harry organized the A Society's rally again. "Lyn Sha, are you sure you're really ready?" Hagrid asked, looking at Lyn Sha with a relaxed expression. "Certainly." Hagrid said that he seemed a little helpless and spread his hands. "Then let's go, and you will have a chance to regret it before you see the giant." Seeing that Hagrid was still trying to dissuade himself, Lyn Sha laughed a little. According to the address just provided by Hagrid, Lyn Sha opened the door of the ring. After stepping out of the door of the ring, Hagrid confirmed the direction and pointed to a certain place in this ancient forest. "There, let's go, if we are lucky, we can reach the giant forest before dark." 35. Before dark. Lyn Sha raised his head and asked questions. "Hagrid, don't tell me the location you told me is not directly into the giant's territory." "Of course not." Hagrid didn't explain and started to lead the way. Lyn Sha quickly followed. Giants hate being disturbed. If you rush into giant territory, be prepared to face dozens of giants over 20 feet. Their huge feet will crush you into meat sauce, powerful your big hands will crush your bones. Lyn Sha looked at the towering trees around him. This forest is an ancient forest, and most of the unknown trees are 40 or 50 feet tall. Many plants are as high as Lyn Shao's waist. In particular, the strange chirping sounds that often sounded are incomparably signaling the danger and mystery of this jungle. This is a remote ancient forest. For so many years, except for the giants who have lived here, basically no one has set foot here. No one wants to hang out where giants live. The bloodthirsty and violent giants are full of killing and hunger, and will treat all creatures they see as food. This of course also includes humans and wizards. "Hagrid, don't you actually know the exact location of the giant's territory?" Lyn Sha asked suddenly. Hagrid cut open some extremely lush thorns in front of him and said in a loud voice, "Of course I know, we are now in the giant's territory, here, this whole forest is." Lyn Sha was a little puzzled. "This whole forest is called the Giant Forest. Oh dear Lyn Sha, the giants don't stay in one place for a long time, they are constantly migrating in this forest, constantly looking for food, nowhere can they eat that kind of food." Let them stay a long time, Hagrid explained. Lyn Sha was stunned. It turned out to be so. If you think about it, there's nothing wrong with what Hagrid said. After all, a giant with a height of 7 or 8 meters eats a huge amount of food, and the food consumed by 7 or 80 giants in a meal together is terrifying. If you don't move often, it's really hard to fill the belly of all the giants. Lyn Sha didn't complain either and quietly followed behind Hagrid. Hagrid is constantly identifying the direction through some traces, looking for where the giants are now. The two walked for a long time in this ancient forest. From dawn to sunset. Hagrid, how long do we have to wait? Lyn Sha sat on the ground tiredly, took out a water bottle from the Gate of Suspense rings and took 2 gulps. Hagrid is also a little immobile now. Sitting on a rock gasping for breath. Come on, we are already nearby. Hagrid finally drank the water in the kettle that Lyn Sha handed over. Now you can tell me why you came to look for the giant. After holding back for so many days, Hagrid asked the question in his heart again. Although before asking this question, Hagrid was ready to still not get an answer. But never expected. This time, Lyn Sha told Hagrid why he was looking for the giant this time. Anyway, it's getting to the destination. There was no need to hide from Hagrid anymore. Lyn Sha looked at Hagrid with a slightly mischievous expression. I said I'm here to make the giant surrender, Hagrid, do you believe it? What? Hagrid froze in place like thunder. It wasn't until the kettle fell to the ground with a clanging sound that he came back to his senses. Hagrid picked up the jug in a panic and stammered, what did you say? Submission. You made the giant submit? It's how could be, you're joking right? Have to say. This time Hagrid really panicked. He had imagined countless reasons, but he never thought that Lyn Sha brought him to the giant's territory for this reason. What a joke. To surrender the giant? This is more stubborn than centaurs. No, he shouldn't use centaurs and giants as an analogy. After all, centaurs can communicate and understand human prophecies. But what about giants? It's no exaggeration to say that the giant's huge brain is filled with stones. Lyn Sha actually wanted the giant to submit to him. Hagrid even regretted agreeing to Lyn Shao's request. 0. Ask for flowers. Even regretted taking Lyn Sha so far. If he had understood from the beginning that Lyn Sha had such a purpose, he would have disagreed if he was beaten to death. Not even Headmaster Dumbledore, whom he most respected, would agree. This is simply an impossible task. Even Headmaster Dumbledore couldn't communicate with the giant, so Lyn Sha actually wanted the giant to submit to him. Hagrid has been waiting for Lyn Shao's answer. But looking at Lyn Shao's face with a faint smile, Hagrid completely understood that this guy was not joking, but said this very seriously. This reaction left Hagrid at a loss for a while. After a brief silence. It's almost time to rest, Hagrid, let's go, get to the giant camp early and go back early. Lyn Sha got up and his tone was flat, as if he wanted to do something trivial. 0. Hagrid stood up silently, not saying a word. Because the words of Professor Dumbledore had been echoing in his mind just now. The trajectory of many things has changed, and immeasurable changes have taken place centered on this young man. The members of the Order of the Phoenix should try their best to help or assist Lyn Sha. Never mind. Hagrid sighed and walked ahead after finding his way through some broken trees and animal carcasses beside him. As for what Lyn Sha just said about making the giant surrender, Hagrid never mentioned it again. But this time is different from the last time he went to the giant's territory. He has silently held the determination to die. He even thought about it. If he really can't go back this time, at least Hermione they will help him take good care of Grawp. The only thing Hagrid can't worry about is his half-brother. Fortunately, I asked Hermione and the others a few days ago. Thought here. Hagrid's mood was much lighter. But Hagrid would never have guessed that Lyn Sha had planned to make Grawp the giant chief. If he knew what Lyn Sha was thinking, must be even more shocked.